San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And happy Friday to everybody out there in America's finest city. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, leading you up to Gwen and Chris coming up at 2 o'clock alongside Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. A little bit different today. I'm live from a hotel in San Jose, traveling with Cathedral Catholic Football. So I will be up here for the show up in San Jose. A little overcast, a little chilly up here. It's kind of like fall weather already. I think it's mostly to do with the marine layer that's rolled in. Hopefully it's not too chilly tonight. I didn't bring too many jackets just because it is still August, but I might have to be prepared for it to get a little cold tonight. So we'll see how that goes. Cathedral plays St. Francis tonight. Earlier today, I was walking around. Our hotel is not too far from the airport, so there's not too much around. I walked down to Starbucks. I got my pumpkin spice into my coffee today, so take that for what it's worth. I'm solidified with. I don't mind the pumpkin spice. I don't mind it. So walked to Starbucks. Was at the Starbucks, and somebody was like, "What's the? Is that a high school shirt?" I said, "Yeah." Is that a local team? I'm like, "Well, from San Diego, we're playing St. Francis." The gentleman's like, "Are they still a powerhouse?" And I'm like, "Well, I hope so, because that's why we're up here." So integrated up here in San Jose. Left yesterday after the show. Almost missed the flight. It was running a little late. The traffic with the rain yesterday kind of slowed some things down. Plus, I had to get all my radio equipment through security, which was fun. I went through the first time with the bag, and then they're like, "Oh, is something in here, sir?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's something in there. You should probably open it." They're like, "Do you have a switchboard in here?" I'm like, "It's a radio thing." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And so they take it out. They had to run it through again. But other than that, everything was pretty much smooth sailing. I was telling Frank before, it's way different traveling with high school kids than it is traveling with college kids. Way different. Trying to keep 15 to 18-year-olds focused is very difficult. And I know the JV team is on their way up here too. So a lot of big traveling party up here to San Jose. But that was me yesterday into this morning. Again, I'm from the hotel up here in San Jose. But we got a lot to talk about when it comes to San Diego sports. And I really want to talk about Aztec football. I thought the Aztecs looked really good last night. We got to watch some of it as a team in meeting rooms. I got to watch the opening drive doing that. I also had to do the fantasy draft. But I thought San Diego State football looked really good. And we're going to talk about San Diego State football a little bit later, not only in this segment, but also in the next hour about where they were at and everything that was going about with San Diego State football. And I thought they looked really good. This is what I thought they were going to look like last year. This is what I thought they were going to look like last year. We talked about all the pros of Sean Lewis and being able to focus on coaching now and being able to not have to worry about all the other aspects of what it takes to be, a head football coach in college football, a D1 coach now with like all of the NIL managing and asking for money and all of these things. Now we can focus on football. He's got a general manager, and so far so good with San Diego State football last night. I thought college football last night in general was great. That Cincinnati-Nebraska game was awesome. That game came down to the wire. I was hoping for the Big 12 victory for the Cincinnati Bearcats. They threw a pick late in the game. That game was fun to watch. I mean, I got ESPNU up right now, and they're re-airing the Towson-Norfolk State game. It's so great to have college football back. So great to have college football back. And we're going to we're a college football show, Frank and I. And we talk NFL, we talk college football. We're going to be talking about that in the fall. And, of course, we're going to continue to talk about Padres baseball. And a lot of things to talk about Padres baseball. They get ready for a 3-game series now against the Minnesota Twins. And later on in the show, we will have a guest from Minnesota. Cory Provus, who is the Minnesota Twins broadcaster, will join us in the noon hour to get you a preview of Padres and Twins. We'll get you the games that matter, the games that mattered last night or this week, as well as some of the games that will matter this weekend for the Padres. And the good news is the San Francisco Giants kind of did you a massive favor this week by sweeping the Chicago Cubs. You're still only a game back from Chicago. You're 2 games back from LA. It'd be nice to have the Padres be able to win the division, and we'll see how these next couple of weeks play out. But they have one of the easiest schedules remaining. It starts with the Twins, but they got to be able to take care of business. We talked about that yesterday on the roundtable. At the end of the roundtable, Ben Higgins asked the question, what do they have to go? What do the Padres have to do in their next 6 games where you feel like you can pick up a game on the Dodgers? And most of us said 5-1. Most of us said 5-1. 6-0 would be great. To ask for a sweep, I think is very difficult to do. But I think everybody would say 5-1, which means you got to sweep either Baltimore at home or Minnesota on the road. And right now, if you are the San Diego Padres and the season and the schedule you have, the easy schedule that you have, you cannot lose any more series. You really can't. Frank put it in the rundown today. He titled it, I think, must-win series. This has become an important series. I think every series from here on out is a must-win series. It's not a must-win in the sense of making the playoffs. The Padres are in the playoffs. Unless something catastrophically bad happens and the Reds go on an absolute tear and the Padres just, lose out, the Padres are in the playoffs. I mean, you start looking at the what-if scenarios again. If the Padres win 14 of their next 28 games, they go 14-14 in their next 28 games, they are listed as a 99% chance of making the postseason. That's just going 500. If the Padres win 9 of their next 28 games, let's say the Padres win 9 of their next 28 games, which is you're talking about massive panic. That would be a major problem. But if the Padres win 9 of their next 28 games, they're still projected to make the playoffs. They have at that point, a 63% chance of making the postseason still. If they go win 9 games out of 28, that's winning 32% of the remaining games. That would get them to 84 wins, and they would still have a majority chance of making the postseason. So from that perspective, they're in the postseason. So the way that they navigate this next month, I think they could do it 2 different ways. One, they can go about it as we're trying to track down the Dodgers. We're trying to win the division. We're going to do whatever it takes to win the division, and we want a first-round bye in the playoffs. I think that's the right approach. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to go about your business in the sense of, okay, we're not trying to lose series, obviously, but we're not going to be all hands on deck for every game for the next month. We're going to try to find ways to get guys off their feet. We're going to try to give opportunities for other arms to be used in the bullpen, try to keep some of our guys fresh, try to keep some of our starters fresh. And I think, honestly, for the Padres, option A or option B, I think there's another option in between where you could do a little bit of both. I think the Padres can still track down the Dodgers and give their veterans days off. I think they can still track down the Dodgers and limit how much their bullpen pitches. I think they can track down the Dodgers and still maintain and get other guys reps in the starting rotation, so maybe you get an extra day off. Now, I think there's a way to do this without getting anybody out of their rhythm. And I think that's what the Padres are going to do over the next month. I mean, we saw it on Wednesday. Luis Arias finally got a day off. And there's ways to get some guys days off. And I would imagine they're going to be giving guys some days off. And that's why when it was brought up on the roundtable, everybody's like, still want to go after the division. It made it look like I was the guy saying like, oh, well, you're already in the playoffs. Let's make sure we're ready for the postseason. That's not what I think. I think the Padres should try to go after the Dodgers. I think the Padres should try to win a division title. I think the Padres should try to go get a first-round bye. But I also think the Padres should be cautious about how much they use Freddie Fermin. I think they got to use Freddie Fermin in the postseason every single day. And we've seen that out of the Padres the last couple of postseason runs. Now, even with different managers, they really went with Austin Nola in 2022 with Bob Melvin. I think in this year's postseason, you have to do that with Freddie Fermin. But I don't think you need to do that with Freddie Fermin in the last month of the year. I don't want to see this guy get tired out. This is the first time that he has been like an everyday catcher in his career. His average has dropped a little bit. I mean, obviously his production's a little bit different now than it was when he first came over. And some of that could be with fatigue. I mean, the guy's playing a lot. And as much as like Diaz is not necessarily the best in terms of being a fit, like he's not putting your best foot forward in terms of a lineup. I think he needs to play more than once a week. He probably has to play every day game or the Pavetta start and getaway days. Because I really think Freddie Fermin, I don't want to run him out, if that makes sense. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think the Padres can still go after the division. I think they can still load up their lineup to try to do it. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to see the Padres just burn out trying to track down the Dodgers and then they get to the playoffs and it's too much. And I know the thing is once the playoffs come around, it's going to be a little bit different. But there's ways to get around it. And there's players that you're going to have to lean on, which kind of leads us to our next topic of the day. And we're going to get to Aztec football later. Drake Hills will join us at 1:35. We'll talk some San Diego FC. We got all the high school games that we want to mention in the 11 o'clock hour as well. We'll get to some more baseball topics later in the noon hour. But an interesting article today by Dennis Lin talking about Yu Darvish and racing Father Time. And so the question is Yu Darvish the Padres' most important pitcher for a World Series run? We'll answer that when we come back. Braden Surprenant Show, just getting started. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. Like the big wave with cheese and fresh cut fries. $10 now for a limited time only. Visit one of our Islands restaurants throughout Southern California today. Dine in only. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant, live from the hotel up in San Jose, as I'm getting ready for a high school football game tonight. Traveling on the road with the Dons. This will be one of 2 times that I have to do this. We will do it again in October when we come up here to play De La Salle. And so I have to meet them at some point. They're leaving the hotel at 1:30, which is obviously something I cannot do. And so I'm going to have to get a ride with our athletic director, Noah Stevens. I talked to Noah before today's game, this morning in the lobby. Noah's a little stressed. Noah's a little stressed out, as I would imagine. His son is starting for Wagner tonight, Jack Stevens, Cathedral alumni. He's starting for Wagner at Kansas. That game's at 4:30. So we'll see how Jack does. Good luck to Jack. He's going against 2 other Dons in Jalen Dye and Devin Dye, the sons of Jermaine Dye. So that will be a fun game. We have told Jack to make sure he takes a picture with both of them before or after the game. So hopefully he does, in fact, do that. But Noah's a little stressed out. I asked him why he didn't go to the game. I mean, your son's playing Kansas on the road. And he was like, well, I'm going to the game next week against Georgetown. All right, fair enough. So who knows if I will have a ride in time or not. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Frank, how was the Aztec game last night?
Muggy. That was the big takeaway from sorry, music. I know, chat. Calm down. Relax.
Everybody take a deep breath.
That was
muggy at the Aztec game.
Yeah, that was the big takeaway from last night. It was so humid. It was so warm. I had to leave at halftime. I couldn't. I just felt so disgusting. Took 2 showers after I got back home just to get that stink and feel off of me. It was god awful. The game last night, solid. I didn't really see too much you can complain about if you're a San Diego State fan watching the game.
The attendance.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. But as far as the on-the-field product, it didn't look bad. It looked solid. Again, you're playing a Stony Brook team that really did not look its best last night by any stretch of the imagination. But also because of that, can't really put too much emphasis on this win. Of course, a 42-0 win, and we'll hear Sean Lewis talk about it a little bit later on. You're doing something right if you shut the opponent out, no matter how good or how bad they are. But you can't really judge it because it is an FCS school. You have a great test next week against Washington State. That will really tell whether or not changes have been made in this program. And then you have your next home game against Cal the week after that. So solid game all the way around. But it was muggy and humid and hot and not a scrap of wind to be found.
Should have, man, if they installed the shade, maybe it would have been cooler.
No, there was nothing. There was nothing saving that. There was nothing saving that
jokes.
experience.
I love making the shade jokes of Snapdragon Stadium. I thought they played well. I think you could look good against a bad team. I don't think they needed to put up 42 on them in one half. I mean, you know, people in the chat, Adam's in the chat, is like, only up 20 at half. That's bad.
No, that's fair.
No, it's not.
Oh, that was fair.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff you got to worry. That's why you play teams like Stony Brook. And here's the thing. I'm comparing San Diego State football against Stony Brook. That's an FCS school. It's not a bad FCS school. They're a good FCS program. I know they had to fly cross country, but I'm comparing the Aztecs against other opponents that they've had in the FCS, which have not been very good. Last year against Idaho State was like a disaster.
So that was 2 years ago against Idaho State, and then last year it was the unbelievable game, again, unbelievable in a bad way, against Texas A&M Commerce, which if you had that game against Texas A&M wouldn't be so embarrassing, but it was the Commerce part that kind of ruins it.
Yeah, they have looked terrible against FCS programs in the past. They have looked terrible against FCS programs in the past. So, yeah, Texas A&M Commerce last year, Idaho State the year before that. I mean, you can always go back to the days at Qualcomm when they lost to Cal Poly. I mean, you don't need to blow them out immediately.
No.
I used to watch it with TCU football all the time and make the comparison. There were times where they hung 70 on Stephen F. Austin and didn't look good doing it. But it's like, hey, look, they put up 70. And then there was years where they put up like 40 something on Samford, and they looked really good doing it. And they went on to potentially, they should have made the college football playoff, but I'm telling you, they looked way better than they have had against FCS opponents. And I think that was a big tester for them. Now, when I watched San Diego State football last night, do I think they're a playoff team? Absolutely not. But I do think that's a team that can win 7 games. I don't care how bad Stony Brook played. You beat them 42-0. And you go back and you watch the game again. I went back and rewatched it. There are massive holes for the offensive line looked good. They kept Denegal upright. The running game was great for Lucky Sutton and company. I thought the defense looked good. The major concern for me wasn't even Denegal's passing. They don't have any receiver weapons. They don't. Bostic's okay, but they don't have any weapons. And so the times where Denegal was in trouble, it wasn't because he wasn't protected, because he was. The offensive line did a good job in the running game and in the passing game. They got nobody. They had nobody in the back. There's just nothing. And this is like the 3rd or 4th year in a row where they don't have any receivers.
Yeah, and Bostic took a couple of pretty good hits, especially in that first half last night. And also Denegal, first drive, looked like he hurt his shoulder pretty good. So it was, again, going back to what you were saying with how they've performed against FCS teams recently, that I think is the biggest takeaway, is they looked like an FBS team beating an FCS team last night. That should be your biggest takeaway. It's not how it got done. It's not the score. It's they looked like a D1 school playing against a D2 school, which is something you cannot say about this program for the last couple of years. That should be your biggest takeaway from last night. I
thought they looked good. But again, I'm going to support Aztec. It's a major team in town, okay? And, a lot of people are just like, nobody cares. You would when they start winning, all of a sudden everybody's going to start caring. And I'm just going to be here and be like, hey, look, we're on it first. What's the saying we have on our show?
Right, but too early.
Right, but too early. I think the Aztecs can win 7 games. I honestly think San Diego State's going to go to Pullman and get a victory. I think they're going to go to Pullman and get a victory. We'll see what Washington State does against Idaho this weekend. But I think San Diego State can go up there and compete with Washington State. We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We have some news for you that I want to get to. So, bad news, Frank. Do you want the good news or the bad news?
Go bad first.
Okay. Bad news. No Ryan O'Hearn on Gwynn and Chris.
Oh, no.
Bad news. The good news is, not to say he's better than Ryan O'Hearn, because I think Ryan O'Hearn would have been a great guest for them on Friday. The good news is, you ready for this?
Go ahead.
Mason Miller
will
be joining Gwynn and Chris today. Mason Miller is joining Gwynn and Chris today. I got to get the exact time on that. 2:40. So Mason Miller will be on the air at 2:40 with Gwynn and Chris. That's going to be cool. Looking forward to that on the Gwynn and Chris show. So that was a little bit about Aztec football last night. I do want to get into this Yu Darvish thing a little bit. And we don't have time to get to it in this segment. But he is racing Father Time. And Father Time is, in fact, undefeated. Darvish is 39 years old now, continues to defy time and injuries while reinventing himself, lower arm slot, vast pitch arsenal. There's a lot of reasons why I think Yu Darvish is very important to this Padres team. But is he the most important pitcher for the Padres to win a World Series? I think that's an interesting question. And I think it's a question that, obviously needs to be answered. But when you look at the Padres starting rotation and you look at the question marks, right? And we talked about this yesterday. You need somebody to really step up. And now I know a lot of people have talked about Dylan Cease, and we talked ad nauseum yesterday about Dylan Cease and what he has to do. And like, how do you navigate with Dylan Cease? in the postseason. But I think the secret to the Padres' success relies on Yu Darvish. Is he the most important pitcher to the Padres winning a World Series this year? We'll answer that question when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. That's Frank Marchese. It's the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Talked a little Aztec football earlier on. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. Also talking Padres baseball, getting you through a Friday, getting you ready for Padres and Twins for a 3-game series this weekend. We got college football all weekend long. We had 17 games last night in college football. We got 10 more, I think, tonight. And then we have a full slate on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, and then a game on Monday. Again, we won't be back in action until Tuesday. We do have Monday off. Frank's going to enjoy his Monday off. Have some brisket ribs and some pork belly burn ends.
100%.
Going to be great. Big game on Monday. Go Aztecs. Big game on Monday. Not a little game on Monday. Big game on Monday. Frogs are 3.5-point favorites.
Now, the big game is tonight, App State, Charlotte.
It's not Auburn, Baylor?
No.
You're telling me it's not Tarleton State at Army?
No, that's the first game, not the big game. That's the first game. There's a
Apparently,
difference.
San Jose State's playing the Chippewas tonight up here. So
Yes, they are.
Too bad I can't go to both.
Well, it depends. If you guys can somehow get your game done in a half hour, you can
That's
go.
not happening. Probably not happening. By the way, before we came back, you had the Sports Minute. Was it Infinity? It's Infinity, right?
Yeah, the Infinity Sports Network.
Sports
because
Network.
CBS Sports Network or Radio Network was not good enough, apparently.
No, on the contract, they only had a certain amount of years that they were allowed to use the name, and then they had to give it back. That's why you have Infinity. But I always get it confused with Xfinity, which is the sponsor of the live area in Philadelphia, which also makes sense because Odyssey is based in Philly. I digress on that. What's that guy's name? Levine? Sean Levine?
The sports machine, Sean Levine.
Sean Levine, the sports machine. Do you think he gave himself that nickname?
No one in
Or do you
this-
think somebody called him that?
I'm sorry.
You're speechless right now.
Yeah, exactly. That is something you don't do that to yourself.
Do you think he called himself that? I think he did.
I don't know him. I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to assume.
The
But
sports machine.
typically a nickname that you give yourself never sticks.
I did not give myself any nicknames, but my friend does want the frog to grow. That's the frog. No, stop calling me the frog. Maybe not. I don't know. Sushi Sam puts frog in the chat all the time.
Yes.
I think that's better than what was the do you remember what Elo's nickname was yesterday? He talked about in the round table.
No, I wasn't. I was working, not listening to the round table.
He said John Shalesnik was the sports doctor and Elo was the sport. What was his name? It was something that was so Elo. It was funny. It was so Chris Elo. It was so funny.
I remember vaguely hearing that part in the background, but I couldn't pick up what I wouldn't be able to remember.
It wasn't like sports enthusiast. It was something like it though. The sports doctor and something else, and I totally forgot what it was. Somebody's got to be able to tell me that. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I remember Elo said it yesterday, and I immediately was like, "That is the most Chris Elo nickname I've ever heard in my life." We were talking about like first time on air.
Yeah,
was part of the seventh inning stretch yesterday.
I remember hearing that. I remember hearing the story about him, like after the first time they put him on, saying, "You guys do that again, you'll get fired." But that was good, so keep doing it.
Specialist. That's what it was. Specialist. The specialist. Sports doctor and the specialist. That's awesome. I'm literally a name like specialist means the guy's a long snapper or a kicker or a punter. I could totally see Chris Ella doing that. Hilarious.
Or the new position in college football, the gadget guy.
Gadget guy. Did you see that in the USF game yesterday?
I did, yes.
They brought the backup quarterback in at punter, and nobody noticed.
Yep.
And then he hawked it.
Mm-hmm.
A fade route for a touchdown. That's something that you can only do in week 1.
Yes.
Because after that, people are going to be on red alert, and they're going to be like, what number is the punter? All that stuff. I mean, I have to do that already for high school games. I can pay attention and be like, wait a minute, that's not their punter. Immediately call timeout. But that was a good play last night. There was a lot of good college football games last night. Let's talk about you, Darvish, Frank.
Yes.
The question was, and again, we had the article from Dennis Litt. He goes into fine detail about Yu Darvish. 39 years old, obviously continues to defy time and injuries while reinventing himself with a lower arm slot. He worked on that this year. A vast pitch arsenal. Despite elbow issues, long IL stints, and questions about how long he'll last into his 6-year extension, he remains a key figure for the Padres rotation. His meticulous preparation, adaptability, and love of the game and for the game keep him effective even as he enters uncharted territory for pitchers his age. Teammates praise his impact both on the mound and in the clubhouse, but questions loom. Can he hold up physically, and how much longer can he be that guy for San Diego? The other question is Yu Darvish the Padres' most important pitcher in this stretch? Is he the most important pitcher in determining if the Padres win a World Series or not? Yes or no?
Yes. Yeah,
I think
because
so.
Who else do you trust? Who do you trust behind him? Of course you're going to trust King. Of course you're going to trust Pivetta. Who's behind him that you trust? No one in a playoff situation.
It's not just a trust thing, though. To me, it's the important one because he's the guy that swings it.
Yes.
He's the swing guy right now. Because you mentioned before, King and Pivetta. I mean, that's your 1 and 2 in the postseason. I think I think you're fine with both of those guys. Even with the injuries that Michael King has had this season. Padres have a playoff game tonight, and Michael King is pitching. Are you concerned?
No.
No, you're not concerned. Padres have a playoff game tonight. It's win or go home, and Nick Pivetta's on the mound. Are you concerned?
No.
No. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. Padres have a win or go home playoff game on the road tonight, and Dylan Cease is on the mound. Are you concerned?
Very.
Very concerned. I am probably 80% concerned. Add in other pieces. Randy Vasquez, are you concerned? Yes.
Not as much as Cease, but yes.
I am concerned because he's a rookie still, right? I mean, kind of. He's a young pitcher who hasn't been there before. So I would be concerned with Randy Vasquez. Nestor Cortez, even though he has playoff experience, I would be very concerned about Nestor Cortez. JP Sears, I mean, we'll start talking about spring training.
Start throwing the fire alarms.
Yeah, we'll see you for pitchers and catchers in the springtime. The other one is like Joe Musgrove as an opener.
No.
Highly concerned. Highly concerned about Joe Musgrove hurting himself more than him going out there and doing well. I'd be more concerned about him hurting himself, which I don't want to see. So that leaves like one guy, and you need one more guy. To me, that's Yu Darvish.
100%.
And I trust Yu Darvish. I trust him in the playoffs. You look at some of his numbers that he has had in a Padres uniform, and Dennis Lin had them in the article. And you look at, what he has done against the Dodgers in a Padres uniform, what he has done. And it seems like, I mean, it's recency bias. You remember a couple of starts where Darvish got knocked around by LA, but he has a 2.58 ERA against the Dodgers since joining the Padres and a strong postseason history. I mean, who do you have to get through in order to make it to the World Series? It's going to be LA. And so you start looking at how this rotation plays out. And we talked about Dylan Cease in the piggyback kind of move and how you wouldn't want to use Dylan Cease unless you need a fourth starting pitcher in a series. The guy that it comes down to is Yu Darvish. So you better hope that and I thought he pitched fine the other day. He gave up 4 runs. He gave up the big blast. I still think that was good enough for you to win. It's not going to be that good enough for you to win in the postseason, but he's still coming back from that injury. He's still trying to log some games. He has now pitched the least amount of games as possible. Or no, least amount of games in his career in one season at 10 right now. And so I think over the next 3 or 4 starts, it's going to make a big impact of whether or not Yu Darvish is that third guy. And I think he is going to be that third guy, and I think he has to be that third guy, which makes me say he is the most important piece to this Padres team in the postseason. I think he's the most important piece to the Padres in the postseason. Out of every player, Yu Darvish is the most important player, pitcher, whatever, for the Padres to win a World Series.
Yeah, 100%. And to Brandon in the chat, if you do you think there's going to be any last minute starting pitchers on waivers this weekend the Padres could pick up? If a pitcher is getting put on waivers right now, they're not worth anything. Because if they were worth something, especially for a playoff run, they would be on the team that they're on. But
the other ones would, like, I think, didn't they get rid of the waiver trade deadline thing?
I think so, yeah.
So there's like no trade for it now. I think it's probably less incentive for some bad teams to put pitchers on the waivers. But you're right. I mean, they have to be on the roster before August. What's the last day of August? 30?
31st.
31st. There's 31 days in August. So they have to be on the 40-man roster before August 31st. I don't think there's anybody that could be potentially put on waivers that is a better option for you than Yu Darvish. I know for a fact that that's the case. I probably lean towards there's probably not an option out there that's better than JP Sears on waivers.
Eric Fetty just got picked up by Milwaukee. Eric Fetty is not getting a postseason start.
No.
If anything, he's getting one inning in a game that's out of control.
No, Eric Fetty is giving you innings for the rest of the season so your other guys can be ready to go. He's helping you make it to the end of the year. JP Sears is helping you make it through the end of the season. Nestor Cortez is doing the exact same thing too. He might just be leaning more towards making a roster, making a playoff roster. So again, when you look at if the Padres are going to win a World Series, it's going to be because of Yu Darvish. And I think, honestly, I think there's no other player that you could put that comparison in for.
No.
I'm talking about Manny. I'm talking about Fernando. I'm talking about anybody in the lineup. You know, Xander Bogaerts, Jackson Merrill. I mean, you name it. Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano. Nobody has more of an impact for the Padres this postseason than Yu Darvish. He is the guy. You are going to, as much as we like to say, Manny Machado, this team rises and falls with Manny Machado. This team's fate is going to be in the hands of Yu Darvish. As dramatic as that sounds, that is the case. What wins in the postseason? It's pitching. Where's the spot that you have the most not really concern with, but the most pressure is that number 3 starter right now. I think they can make it through with a Dylan Cease, Nestor Cortez piggyback, or a Wandy Peralta starts the game, Dylan Cease comes in, or a bullpen day. I mean, they could do that one time a series. But they can't do it 2 times a series, which means you need a number 3 starter, which means Yu Darvish is your number 3 starter. You're gonna ride and die with him. And I'm gonna be honest with you. That's not a bad guy to ride and die with in the postseason.
No.
He's crafty. His preparation's insane. Like, he's looked good in the postseason. Could be a final hurrah for him to win a World Series, because he hasn't won one, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't believe so.
He didn't win with Texas. He didn't win one with Chicago, and he didn't win one with LA. He got shelled by the Astros in LA in 2017. He's been there, but he's never won. And then the question becomes, like, let's ask this question too, because it's interesting with where he's at in his career and how old he is. And you could tell, like, the money, and here's why I know, like, the money doesn't matter to you. Was last year when he was missing time, he didn't have to be put on the restricted list. He got asked to be put on the restricted list. I mean, they had to, like, file a waiver to get him on the restricted list because he didn't do anything wrong. And he felt bad about taking the money when he wasn't going to be there for like 2 to 3 months. You know, he doesn't need the money. Does not matter to him. So my question is now, if the Padres do win a World Series, which is we still got a lot of ways to go. But let's say, and we talked about the drama here, so we're just going to play this out a little bit. Yu Darvish is the most important pitcher for the Padres and most important player for the Padres on their 26-man roster in the postseason to win a World Series. He's the most important. He gets the job done and they win the World Series. Does he retire?
I would if I were him.
I mean, you and I both don't know him personally, so we can't really speak for Yu Darvish, but there could be a situation where he does do that. And then those 2 to 3 years that you still have on the books are now not there anymore. Because again, when he retires, you don't have to pay him. Is he still playing to just try to win a World Series? I mean, I think that might be the case. What else does Yu Darvish have to accomplish in his career? He had what did he just pass the other day? Like the most wins out of any Japanese-born pitcher.
I think so. Yeah,
in Major League
like
Baseball history. I mean, he's making a lot of hay with that. He's had a great career. Is he a Hall of Famer, Frank?
I would say so.
I think he's pretty close.
He may not get in on the first ballot. It might be a couple times. It might be a 76% thing, but I think he'd get there. If Mike Messina can get there, I think Yu Darvish can get there.
A World Series champion, Yu Darvish, he could probably make it. So, what is he playing for anymore, right? I mean, if he hasn't won a World Series, it's for a World Series. I think it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Yu Darvish is a very interesting cog to this team, and something that I didn't think we'd really talk too much about. But I think he's the most important pitcher and the most important player on that 40-man roster for the Padres' success to win a World Series.
Just think
there's nobody more important.
And just think next year he's going into his age 39 season. He's under contract until he's 41. So, I mean, those are big things, and he's going to be taking up $18 million each of the next 3 years as far as the salary goes.
And, the comparison to me is Verlander and Scherzer. I think they're both 42. If I'm not mistaken. Are they both 42? They're either 41 or 42. 2 years ago when they were 40, they were still pitching well. But this year for both Scherzer and Verlander have been it's time to call it quits.
Verlander is 42, Scherzer is 40.
He's only 40. So maybe he's getting up there too. I mean, he doesn't look nearly as dominant as he used to be. Verlander's just not very good anymore. And so they've made it. They still look pretty good in their late 30s. I think Yu Darvish has, at the end of this season, I think he's got one more go for it. And that's it. Scherzer turned 41 on July 27th. Okay, so they're both over 40.
He's still not 42.
So we have a 42-year-old and a 41-year-old. They're starting to just, Father Time remains undefeated. The Padres winning a World Series falls on Yu Darvish's shoulders. He is the key. He is the key to the Padres' success. So, regardless if you think that's great or not, that is the reality of the situation. And I'm going to tell you right now, out of all the pitchers on the staff, there's not a single pitcher or really player in general that I trust more with getting himself prepared for a playoff game than Yu Darvish. He's a good guy to ride or die with. I think everything he's done for the Padres organization has been great. That's why I didn't mind him taking a leave of absence last year. I mean, we had people calling in, bitching, moaning, and complaining about it. It's like, dude, he's not taking any money. Let him deal with whatever he has to do. And when he comes back, he comes back. It's the same thing this year. I don't really care if he pitches in May. I don't care if he pitches in June. I don't really care if he pitches in July. I really don't care if he pitches in August. I need him to pitch at the end of September to get ready for October. This man's given a lot to this organization, a lot to the city. And I'm excited to see him in the postseason. I think the Padres can get a World Series with Yu Darvish on the mound and being that big key player. So the question was, is he the most important player? I think the answer is yes. I think it's hard to argue that. I think it's hard to argue with anybody else. If you had to pick a position player, Frank, who would be the most important?
Fernando
would probably be my guess too. I mean, he really needs to start, waking up. As much as it's Manny, the team lives and dies with Manny, I'm not concerned about Manny being able to turn it around because he always does.
You need that.
They got to get Fernando back close to what he was before from a power standpoint.
You need to.
And he's contributed well.
Yeah, you need that supporting cast member. And Fernando, I'm sorry, this year, I understand he's got all this off the field stuff happening, and I guarantee you that is affecting the way he plays. You can only take uh I'll leave your stuff at the door for so long. That can only be done for so long. They need to get Fernando right for at least 1 month. Just put everything into baseball for 1 month. If they can do that, if he can be that supporting cast member to Manny that they need him to be, this team can and will win a World Series. Undoubtedly.
He might be the cog on offense for sure. I mean, if Fernando puts on an October show, this team's going to be unstoppable. And we talked about that. We have it in the, coming up later on the show. Yeah, just destroy my ears, dude.
Yep, gotcha. No problem. Hurt mine too.
We're going to talk more about the roles. I mean, this team's 9 deep, and there's a lot of there's going to be an October hero out there for the Padres. Who that hero might be, remain to be seen. We're an hour in. We got 3 more to go. I'm in San Jose. Frank's in San Diego. More Padres talk when we come back. I'm up in San Jose. We had some people asking earlier in the YouTube chat, where are you at? San Jose, California. Cathedral Catholic Football is playing St. Francis up here in the Bay Area, so we will be in action tonight at 7 o'clock. That's why I'm up here in a hotel. We'll be doing this again in October when Cathedral takes on De La Salle, the legendary program up in the Bay Area, up in the Walnut Creek area of California. So those are the two road shows that we have planned, unfortunately, for me. But with technology now, it's a lot easier. Just had to get through this little fun device and through security. That was fun. For some reason, the security guy knew what it was. He must be into making music or something like that. He's like, "Is that an audio board?" Without even opening up my bag, and I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what that is." He handled it with care. It's great. Put it through again. I had to go through security twice, which I probably have to do again tomorrow morning. And yes, I will be on the call tomorrow for USD football. I'm doing the color analyst role on Saturday, Frank.
Look at you. Adding some color
I'd rather
to
do
the game.
I'd rather do play-by-play. It's more beneficial for my career at the end of the day.
Right, but it's also
because
nice
I'm not a former athlete or former coach, but as a current high school coach, it's not that. It's fun.
It's also
the
nice
preparation level's a little bit different.
It's also nice to show you could do multiple roles.
Yeah. I could do color analyst roles for football. I don't know if I could do it for other sports. Maybe baseball. I do it for basketball for USD. I just think it's very basic. I think it sounds basic. People think, hey, he knows ball. I'm like, yeah, I know enough basketball to make it through, but I'm not as confident in my color analyst role for basketball as I am for football or baseball. Jack Cronin's he's got the play-by-play. He's been the voice of USD Torero's athletics for a long time now. So he's number one over there. I'm number two. Fill in for him a lot, do a lot of the women's games. I got every volleyball game. They're projected to win the Pioneer Conference for football. They're projected to win the West Coast Conference. So we'll be on tomorrow at 5 o'clock, USD Cal Poly. So hopefully the local teams get a couple of wins this week. San Diego State football got a win last night. It was great to see. Overall, and we're going to talk about this right now and talk more Padres baseball in a little bit, but Aztec football had a good win last night. It was the game last night. That's why we're breaking it down on a Friday. No Padres baseball yesterday. I think if you're an Aztec fan, you should be excited about this team. They're going to be a lot better than they were last year. I think they showed it last night. I love the running attack with Lucky Sutton and Byron Caldwell and Christian Washington, the three-headed monster, all three local products coming out of San Diego. I didn't like the fact that they had Lucky all the way down the field, and then they decided to go with Cardwell down at the goal line where he got stuffed twice. Out of all the backs, it makes the most sense to put Lucky down by the end zone. But you know what? They ended up figuring it out. They gave Lucky the ball, and then he punched it in for the first touchdown of the season for San Diego State. Lucky had his overall numbers last night were good. 22 carries, 100 yards, averaged 4.5 per carry, 2 touchdowns along a 20. That is the rushing attack that San Diego State has been built on for a long time now. And I think a running back like Lucky Sutton fits them, and that's an equalizer when you're trying to compete against better teams. Now, last night, Stony Brook, not a better team, obviously an FCS opponent. They're flying cross country. They're not as good as San Diego State, but they took care of business. The Aztecs took care of business last night. I liked what Lucky Sutton did. Christian Washington had 7 carries for 38 yards, and averaged 5.4 carry. He had a touchdown along at 27. Byron Cardwell Jr. Had 7 carries for 29 yards. He had a long of 14. I thought Jaden Denigal played pretty well. I think he made a lot of impressive throws. He was 13 for 25 for 208 and a touchdown. Obviously not very high on the quarterback rating yesterday. Bert Emanuel Jr. got thrown into action because of Denigal getting injured early in the game, but he was able to come back. Emmanuel Jr. 3 for 4 for 19 yards. I think the biggest problem for San Diego State football right now offensively is their receiving core. They don't have a lot of weapons. They just don't have a lot of weapons. They don't have anything to throw. They don't have anybody that's the guy. They don't have those Vincent Browns out there that we've seen in the past for San Diego State football. So I think quarterback play was good. I thought the rushing attack was good. I thought the defense played well. Leading tacklers last night, Owen Chambliss, Tana Latuli. I thought the local products balled out last night for San Diego State, and it was a good overall win. And now they get ready for arguably their best tester at the beginning of the season in Washington State, and they got to play them on the road. And I think San Diego State can beat Washington State. They lost to them by 3 points at home last year. A way better Washington State team, whose quarterback, by the way, is now at Oklahoma. John Mateer's the starting quarterback for Washington State last year that beat San Diego State by just a field goal. He's now the starting quarterback at Oklahoma. And his offensive coordinator is now at Oklahoma. And the coaching staff has left. I'm telling you right now, San Diego State's going to be able to hang with Washington State on Saturday, next week. And you know what? I think they could beat them. Next weekend. I think San Diego State could beat them. If San Diego State beats Washington State, I think they can win 8 games this season. And now we talk, more about, the game a little bit, and we'll go through some of the other things. But I thought they played well last night. I thought the side of the Lucky Sutton effect was great. I mean, San Diego State rushed for 226 yards and spread the ball among 9 receivers. I mean, they had a good balance with the offense. I thought the offense looked as good as what I was expecting it to look like last season. But it was overall a good win, and here's what head coach Sean Lewis had to say about last night's win against Stony Brook.
Proud of the effort from the guys tonight. Obviously, anytime that you can pitch a shutout, you're doing some things that are really good. Really proud of the leadership from Coach Orich. Pretty neat for him, for the boys to rally around him and get a shutout as, DC for the first opportunity here with the Aztecs. Pleased with the way that the offense started the game. Overall in the third quarter, some things obviously that we need to clean up. That was not to our standard, and gather the team up there at one point in time to remind them of how we do it and why we do it, and that the scoreboard is a direct reflection, right, obviously, of how we go about our business. And we didn't do that the right way in the third quarter, but grateful to take the first step and to get the first win against a really good team. I mean, that's a good team that's going to have a great year, and excited about, how much better we can get as well as we go forward, which will be really cool to see.
I don't think last night was a turning point for the program. I think it was taking care of business. If they go up to Pullman and beat Washington State, I think they have turned the corner. Did they prove anything last night? Yeah, they proved that they could take care of business against a bad team. Then they look good doing it. But I still think they need to wait until Washington State to know if Sean Lewis's program has really, truly turned the corner. They go up to Washington State and get a victory. I know they're not a power conference team anymore. Well, I guess the P stands for power. So maybe that is the case. By the way, the Power Act teams last night did not look very good, Frank. I mean, Boise State got run out of the building by USF.
Yeah, they did.
And they are supposed to be the premier team of this new Pac whatever.
It's amazing what one running back can do.
Yeah, can't handle the American Athletic Conference. They should be power then.
There's no paid American Athletic Conference.
Okay. San Diego State has now won 58 of its last 60 games when rushing for 200-plus yards. That's pretty impressive in itself. They're 58-2 when they get 200 yards on the ground. 58-2. I think with Cardwell, Sutton, and Washington, I think they could do that. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they all looked good last night. Cardwell had a very good ability to widen the field and be able to find lanes and get running downfield. Sutton looked very, very good, especially in tight, getting through the line. He looked great. Unfortunately, I didn't see too much of Washington. I left at halftime, but what I saw out of the San Diego State rushing game, very, very good.
I think they look really good. They have a 3-headed monster in the backfield. And Sean Lewis talked about the 3-headed monster that they have in the rushing room.
Yeah, they did good. I mean, looking at the numbers, right? Lucky averaged over 4.5 a carry. Christian was 5.4. Byron was 4.1. They're all very effective. I think there's some things that we can tighten up on our courses. I thought we were a little bit wide off the gapping unit on our gapping unit plays. There's a couple open access cutbacks in our inside zone that we need to be tighter to and clean up as we go. But again, it's a talented room. It's a talented crew, and have had good time on task with all of them. And they've all shown those abilities through practice against a really good defense, right? So feel comfortable with all of them. Obviously, Lucky showed that he could carry a good load tonight.
He did. I thought Lucky looked great. We've continued to say it. The running game, but we knew the rushing attack was going to be good for San Diego State. We knew that the rushing attack for San Diego State was going to be good this year. That to me was the for sure offense was going to be good. You even look like in Phil Steele's book, he had San Diego State's rushing room, one of the better ones in the country, and listed with the group of 5 schools. He mentioned that San Diego State running the football was going to be drastically improved from last year. When talking to Lucky Sutton, leading into the season, it sounded like they were going to run the ball a lot more, still do Aztec fast, but be able to ground and pound. They were unable to do that last year. I think they established the run early and often in yesterday's game. I think that needs to be a key part of their success coming for the future. But they also need they've got to be able to throw the ball. And the reason why they got to throw the ball is they got to get people to watch their games. I mean, last night's attendance was insane. It's not, it was insane in the sense that it was embarrassingly small. But at the same time, it was not surprising. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. And I did want to hear from, and here's we're going to hear from Sean Lewis on the quarterback situation. And then we're going to talk about what the stadium there was less people there, it looked like, than a CIF championship game at Snapdragon Stadium. And I get it was hot, it was humid. Stony Brook's not a draw. But to me, the thing that needs to be fixed the most for the Aztecs is they got to be able to get people to go to games. I think last night was a step in the right direction by winning, but they have a massive attendance problem on their hands. We're going to talk about that when we come back. And then later on, a lot of roles for the Padres. The Padres are 9 deep, and guys are doing what they need to do to compete. We're going to talk more about that as well. Get you some high school football in there also. And we haven't mentioned it too much yet. What was going on in Dallas yesterday? That was probably one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen. We'll talk about that as well as we continue on. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to join the show today. Anybody go to the Aztec game last night? We're going to talk more Padres baseball. I bet you like everybody that attended the game last night could probably give us a phone call. And we'd be done in one segment, Frank.
Uh-huh.
San Diego State last night announced crowd of 20,624. What's your opinion on that? Is that even, I mean, you were there last night. Not even close.
No. Not even
close.
Remotely close.
Actual turnstile count, 13,516. Does that make more sense? You didn't even think that was the case.
No.
You thought there was less than that.
Yes.
It looked like from pictures before I get the actual on the ground report. It looked like in pictures that San Diego State had an exclusive game for just their friends and family. That's what it looked like on all of Kirk Kenny's videos. That's what it looked like on television. That's what it looked like from people that I know that attended the game. It looked like it was an exclusive invite scrimmage at the game last night.
It was, I got there an hour before kickoff. Walked the concourse, walked the upper deck, which is something I never do. I wanted to get the full shot of the field that you guys saw on my Instagram yesterday. There was nobody. I mean, nobody.
What time did you get there? 6?
Yeah, I got there at 6. An hour before kickoff. And honestly, by the time I got up to the upper deck, it was about quarter after 6, 6:30. There was nobody in the upper tank on the home side, on the west side of the stadium. Not a soul up there. The north side concourse walking back and forth behind the mountainside end zone. You and I both walked that concourse at halftime of the San Diego State San Diego FC, I believe it was Nashville game, was the one that you went to before football season started.
Yes.
You know, you cannot walk that end of the concourse while the game is going on for San Diego FC. I could not decide where to walk. There was so much room on that north side concourse. I went to Crack Shack on Saturday for the San Diego FC Portland Timbers game. It took me 15 minutes to get an order of chicken and fries. Yesterday, it took me 15 seconds.
No lines.
If I got caught in a line last night at the game, I probably would have been the most unlucky person in the building. There was nobody there. There was no buzz. The east side lawn was completely empty. The east side driveway, now granted, that has changed a little bit because of all the construction that's going on. So now instead of, just having a block party on that driveway, now people are driving to get around to the parking lots. There was nothing there on the lawn, on the driveway. There was nothing there. When you go to a San Diego FC match, that is full. It is jumping. There is music going. It looked like the building was closed yesterday. It was embarrassing. For an hour before kickoff, for the opening game of the season, it was unbelievable how empty that place was. And it didn't look even halfway full until midway through the second half. That was it. Midway through the second quarter. That's when it started to look halfway full.
I knew some people there at the game last night. Our friend Sushi Sam was there. He was in the AC controlled area. He's got some nice seats.
Lucky.
Yeah, he said, hey, he put you in the chat. He said, anytime you're at the game, man, hit him up. You go hang out with the legends over there.
You see, now that
Sam's little suite.
You see, now that doesn't help me today for last night.
No,
because last night
it might help you for the Cal game, though.
When I needed air conditioning last night, I did not know this information, and I would have.
All right. Well, you could talk to him about it on Monday. Anyway, I knew some people at the game last night. I think the game obviously was fun. I think a lot of people had a good time. But that being said, Sam, I think put in the chat yesterday, you got to be monitoring a little bit better. For your own sake. I'm just looking out for you, Frank.
I'm sorry, I'm working. My bad.
Adam Paul said in the chat, season ticket holder said tailgating was good. The tailgating scene is still pretty good, I think, at Aztec games. It's not as great as like other parts of the country, but here's the deal. There's a lot of things that San Diego State needs to fix about their home games. One of them is the product needs to be better, and I think they have fixed that now. I'm not ready to say they've turned the corner yet, but it's going to be better than last year. So I think that I think that is one of the problems. Number two, I think it would be more concerning if the student section was empty. Sounds like the student section was pretty full. It was not. It was well attended, but they left at halftime. The thing with the student section is when you have the 7:00 games, they're going to want to go out and party anyway after the fact, and they will leave early if they need to. Some of these games are a little bit too late. They obviously don't get to pick all their kickoff times. So, but at least the students are there. The thing with San Diego State, and I think their biggest problem is just it's so expensive to go to a game against an opponent like Stony Brook that nobody cares about. And here's the deal. We've talked about this before. They have to compete with the Padres. They got to compete now with San Diego FC. They got to compete with the Wave. They got to compete with rugby. I mean, there's all these other things in town that they have to compete with on top of the fact that San Diego's got a lot of things to do. But San Diego State, I mean, it's like ridiculous to park. It's ridiculous to attend the game. And I've had this conversation multiple times, and I'm not afraid to say it. The people I know that have season tickets for Aztec football pay more money than I do for TCU season tickets. TCU's in the Big 12 conference. They're in a Power 4 conference. Now, I know they're in Fort Worth, Texas, which is different than San Diego. But at the same time, I have good seats, and they're cheaper than most people who have season tickets for Aztec tickets. The competition's way different. And so when these people sell their tickets online, they eat tons of money. My parents have tickets, and my dad supports the program. He's an Aztec alumni. So he buys season tickets. He's got good tickets. He's got really good, nice seats. They're in the club section on the home side. They're super nice. I love going to games. I think San Diego State did a great job with Snapdragon Stadium. But we had the same problem last night. I mean, he couldn't get rid of the tickets. And so my mom and my brother ended up going. My brother went to Tennessee. He's used to watching Tennessee football. He almost had to get dragged to the game because he was like, what am I going to watch this for? And by the way, those tickets are like a couple $100 a pop. It's like, and I understand why. It's their club seats. They should be like that. But to pay like that kind of money for San Diego State Stony Brook is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If you look at, here's the thing, Frank, we've done this before. Mm-hmm. If you look at ESPN on their website and you look at the scores, right? You pull up the scores page. Mm-hmm. It will tell you tickets as low as whatever for games.
Like for Tarleton State Army, $6, $49 for Western Michigan State, low as $8 for Kennesaw State Wake Forest.
I don't know what the Aztec Stony Brook one was, but I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people that spent money on season tickets are going to have to eat a ton of money for games like that if they try to resell their tickets, unless it's like $50-something. We did this in the past where San Diego State was playing like Wyoming or something like that. They're playing a Mountain West school, and their tickets were more expensive than a UCLA home Big Ten game and a USC home Big Ten game the same weekend. Same weekend.
I'm just going to go to week 3 because I know
when they host Cal.
Yeah, when they host Cal. Okay.
Yeah, take a look at the game and then be like, okay, well, it's California. Look at like how much SC is, and I know they're bigger stadiums and everything like that.
So week 3 or week 4?
They have a bye week 3. It's the September 20th is their next home game.
Okay, so that'll be week 4 then. Right now, tickets as low as $64.
$64
And
to attend
that's 3
San Diego
weeks
State
out.
Cal. Okay, $64 to attend San Diego State Cal.
My God, you know what? You're about to take everything back right now.
No, some of these games are ridiculous.
Wyoming, Colorado, in Boulder. Tickets as low as $191. Colorado is ripping you off.
They have the Dion effect.
Yeah, that's ripping you off, is what that is.
You have to compare against other teams in like the area. I mean,
San
Diego
Jose,
State Cal's okay.
Idaho, San Jose State, $29. Fresno
makes more
State,
sense.
Hawaii, $44.
Boise State's at Air Force. It's $24.
Yeah.
Nevada, West Kentucky, $20. I mean, Washington State's a rivalry game. That's like $160 to get in that building. But you look at some of the games.
SEC on the same week, Oklahoma versus Auburn at Norman, 57.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'd rather spend $57 to get into the building for Boomer Sooner and Auburn. It's a little bit more intriguing to me than San Diego State Cal. TCU SMU is $109. I'm about to post my tickets on that one. But again, like you look at the deal, and it's just like the tickets need to be. I don't know why they don't make one of the two things cheap. I know they're trying to pay off the stadium, and they're going to make all their money on that new project. They're starting to build around the stadium now, which I think is great.
Yes, which if you're used to parking in either the purple or the orange lot, get ready because last night there were some changes to how you get around down there.
Once they do that, I think the area is going to be one of those places to be because they're going to put in bars and they're going to put in restaurants. And that's going to make it a little bit more intriguing, I think, to go to games. I think it's going to bring a little bit more activity because when you start putting in bars and restaurants, you can get people to show up to the area and watch college football. Like if I'm going to a San Diego State game, it could be whoever. And there's a bar right there, like walking distance, I could go watch my other teams play and then walk into the stadium. You can't really do that unless you want to set up a tailgate. Not everybody wants to do that anymore. And so I think that might bring a little bit more buzz to it. I think, well, that's where they're going to make all their money. But I just don't understand like why they're not using like the ticket prices as a loss leader to get people into the building. Just get them in the building. Because if you give people cheaper tickets, I'm sure they've done research on this. So there might be some stuff that I don't know. But get into the building. Get people into the building. They're going to spend money on stuff. And I was talking to a coach at Cathedral. He coaches girls flag football and he coaches baseball. He's a Gonzaga alumni. But we're talking about Aztec football. He's like, I cannot bring my family afford to the game. It's way too expensive. It doesn't make any sense for me to do that. He's like, at least get us in the building. I 100% agree with that. You could talk. You could bitch, moan, and complain about start times, about the on-field product, all that stuff. Get people inside the building. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I know they're actively trying to get people to go because people are getting inundated with emails about buying tickets and everything. They're too expensive. It doesn't make any sense for the product. I mean, and the stadiums that are out there that have way more attendance and or higher capacity might be a little bit more expensive, but I can't justify paying $64 to get in to watch San Diego State play Cal. I mean, that doesn't justify it. I think if you pull up their schedule, they'll have the tickets.
Section 333, upper corner, top row, all the way in the corner where the visitor section is.
That's where
the visitor section is for San Diego FC. $115.
What game is that for?
For Cal.
Oh, for Cal. Yeah, I mean, I get that they're a power conference team. Here's your other ticket prices. $44 to see Colorado State, $38 to see Wyoming. I mean, these are getting better. $71 to see Boise, $25 to see San Jose State. Most of the games on the road are cheaper.
I picked on the home side. So it was the home side. It was the other side. Home side, upper deck, seat furthest in the corner. $115 for Cal. That should never
I'm
be
sorry.
$115.
I'm not spending $100 on any Aztec game.
Okay. Oh, wait. Never mind.
Unless you're playing like a real power opponent, not like Cal.
Hold on. Going the other way. Going to the other side. Okay. So going to the other side where the visitor section is for San Diego FC. That's $62.55.
For San Diego State Cal.
Yeah. So you're charging double to sit on the hard camera side. No wonder the home side was a wasteland yesterday.
The home side's got a lot of premium seats, though. This is the problem where I noticed this.
Upper deck in the farthest corner.
I'm just saying. I will say this and this is what really brought it up. And they have lowered prices since they started. Okay, so they're trying to make it happen. But I remember, this is like I think it was for that Idaho State game that we talked about. My parents had their tickets in the club section. And I was working a USD event, and then I didn't have to work the USD event. So it was too late to ask for a credential, and I wanted to go to the game and, be in their area. It was like $200 to try to buy a seat in their ticket for Idaho State. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I can't do it.
It's absurd.
Hopefully they could. I think Sean Lewis and the staff, I thought they did a great job last night. Hopefully they can build some momentum and get some people in the doors. I mean, because it was rough to watch. It's hard for recruiting. That's hard to, get kids to stay, especially when they're competing with areas of the country where the entire town shuts down for games. But had to talk a little bit about that. When we come back, we will get to the Jerry Jones saga. We will also get to some Padres baseball. And we'll talk a little bit of high school football in the 12 o'clock hour. We did want to get into this talking point about Padres getting production from more places. Was this the best deadline that AJ Preller has ever had? We'll talk about that later on the Braden Surprenant Show. San Diego Sports Station 97 through the Fan. the noon hour for some news in Major League Baseball that opens up an interesting topic of conversation. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station 97 through the Fan. Mason Miller is going to join Gwen and Chris coming up at 2:40 today. They're on after us. Padres game is at 5:10 tonight because they're in Minnesota. Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt at 4:10. He had a decent draft last night, the fantasy draft, Frank. Wasn't too bad.
He figured out how to draft?
Yeah. He figured out how to draft.
Oh, there you go.
These hotel shows are weird. This is the first time I've ever hosted a show in a hotel. I know Tony does it all the time. Chris does it all the time. I know Woods has done it. I mean, it's just weird to me. Like I have headphones in, so I don't know how loud I am. Like hopefully I'm not getting a bunch of noise complaints right now. No, on the air, I don't really care. I'm talking about the neighbors. I'm just hoping that like some of the players.
It's a hotel bar. You'll never see him again.
Yeah, exactly. Most of our players are doing study hall right now in the conference rooms down below. So hopefully my rooms next to me were filled with football players. So it's just empty up here on my floor. But I am a little, that's why I'm like trying to be a little bit more soft spoken than I usually am on the air. So anyway, we had some news go down. Boston Red Sox are going to activate Peyton Tolley to start tonight for Boston, the TCU player from a couple of years ago. He was really good at TCU, and he moved through the minor leagues very well. So he's going to get activated. But who got released is also very interesting because it goes on the entire sense of maybe there are players on waivers that might be better than JP Sears.
Yeah, Brandon in the chat might have been onto something. So to make room for the pitcher that was announced yesterday was going to be coming up, the Red Sox decided to waive Walker Buehler. So Buehler is now on waivers. He $21 million this year. He had a mutual option attached to him at $25 million for next year. So that was the mutual option. I don't know with him getting waived if he gets picked up. I'm assuming he can still abide by that mutual contract. But I would have to guess that if Walker Buehler is getting waived, he's going to pick up that mutual option for $25 million. So you're going to get him not just for this last month push, but for next year as well.
The contract doesn't go? It does, but it's a mutual option. So the team has to say yes, and that team is not going to say yes.
Yeah, true.
But that's only if they pick him up on waivers. They take the contract off the Red Sox hands.
Yes,
which I don't think anybody's going to do.
No, that was a show me deal for him.
How much did they already pay him is the interesting question. You also, by the way, here's another reason why you don't want to pay him or pick him up on waivers. You have to pay a $3 million buyout for him. Let the Red Sox do that. There's nobody that's gonna pick up Walker Buehler on waivers. He's gonna have to be a free agent, and then you sign him for a league minimum deal, and let the Red Sox pay for him. And then the Red Sox would have to pay for his buyout next year. If you decided to, let's say you decided to just, you think that Walker Buehler is good enough to pick up on waivers and take that contract off the Red Sox hands, which would be organizational malpractice. You would have to pay him I don't know how many games are left. We have 20-something games left.
29
or 29 games.
28.
I'm trying to think of the percentage. You're paying him
28.
There's 28 games left. So you have to I'm trying to put it together in terms of how it would make sense. 28 divided by 162.
I'm waiting for
17%.
I'm waiting for the John Heyman tweet that explains the whole situation for us, or the Jeff Passan tweet.
This is going to be just a relative guess. You have to pay him $3 million for the remainder For the next month, you have to pay him $3 million. So if you picked him up off waivers, which nobody's going to do, you would have to pay him $6 million over the next 2 years total. Is it worth $3 million for 3 or 4 starts and then whatever? I mean, here's the thing, too. It's like he got waived today. And so he has to be added to your 40-man roster before August 31st in order for him to be eligible for the postseason. The Red Sox might have waived him at the right time, knowing it's like, hey, nobody's going to pick him up after the fact. Let's call the bluff and be like, if you really want this guy to pitch for you in the playoffs, you're going to have to take the contract.
Alessis in chat, Braden can't do basic math. We're in radio because of that fact. We know full well that we cannot do basic math.
So basic math. What's wrong with that math? I mean, just did it real quick. I'm trying to do it on the air. I mean, you have to pay 17% of his contract because all the money is based on games played. 17% of the season is left. You have to pay 17% of the $18 million. He's already paid the whatever it is. He's already been paid by the Red Sox that amount. So it's roughly $3 million.
Chris Cotillo, who is a beat writer for the Red Sox for MassLive.com, he also said there's another move that's going with it. Nick Sogard is up, and that guy that they called the password, something Garcia, he is going right back down, and Peyton Tolley will wear number 70 with along with this Walker Buehler cut effectively here.
What's Walker Buehler doing this year besides terrible?
Walker Buehler this season
look pretty damn good against the Padres.
Well, you know, Buehler 7-7, 22 starts, 6.73 strikeouts per 9, 4.41 walks per 9.
What's his ERA?
ERA is a 5.45 with a minus 0.07 WAR.
Is he better than JP Sears?
Well, it doesn't really matter since JP Sears is in the minor leagues.
Is he better than Nestor Cortez? Is he better than Yu Darvish?
I would wait because, again, Nestor's going tonight against another American League team, another team he's pitched against a lot with the Yankees, had great success with against with the Yankees. I would give it, if Nestor bombs tonight, I would start to give half a look to Walker Buehler. If Nestor is fine, I would leave Buehler alone. I wouldn't touch him with a 20-foot pole.
All right, here's the deal. Here's the deal with the Buehler situation. This is actually well played by the Red Sox because they waited to a point where, so it's today's August 29th.
Yes.
He has to be on the other team's 40-man roster or whatever. He like, let's just say you're interested in having him on the Padres, which I'm not necessarily saying I am. If the Padres wanted to pick up Walker Buehler, they would have, he's got 3 days before he clears waivers, 3 business days. If I'm not mistaken, the weekends don't count as business days.
No, they do not. And then Monday's a holiday as well. So,
and Monday's a holiday.
Yeah, they don't have to start claiming him until the 2nd.
Well, no, he does not get cleared until the 2nd.
Yes.
Or whatever it is, right? So today would be the day 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2nd would be day 2.
Yeah, and then the
third would be day 3. So if you didn't want to pay this contract, he is not eligible for the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm correct on that, which I think I am, because it's you either have to be on the injured list or the 40-man roster of the team in order to be eligible for the postseason. So what the Red Sox did by releasing him today, if you want Walker Buehler to be on your team for the postseason, you will have to take the remainder of his contract, which is roughly $3 million. Plus, you would have to pay the $3 million next year to not pick up his contract on the buyout of the mutual option. That's very interesting. That's a well-played move, I think, by the Boston Red Sox. Because I'm not like totally out on potentially adding Walker Buehler. I think it's an interesting move for the Padres. I think it's an interesting move for a lot of contending teams. Maybe a new scenery would be better for him. He kind of finished not great for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I know he had a lot of work in the postseason last year. That could be a major factor for him with Boston. But the Red Sox obviously weren't going to pick up his mutual option. They needed room on the team. And they needed somebody for Peyton Tolley to be added. So they released Walker Buehler, and now he has to go. He's got 3 days to go through waivers, but if a team wants him, they have to claim him before Monday.
So I'm looking.
And I don't know if you can claim guys on the weekends. I don't know what the rule. I don't know the inner workings of the waiver period, but all I know is you're on it for 3 business days.
I'm looking at the postseason roster rules and eligibility on the MLB website right now. In a typical season, any player who is on the 40-man roster or 60-day IL as of 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, so that's almost 10 o'clock here, or 9 o'clock here, on August 31st is eligible for the postseason. Those on the restricted list at that point are also eligible if they have not been suspended for PEDs during that season. A player who doesn't meet said criteria for postseason eligibility can still be added to a team's roster in the postseason via petition to the commissioner's office if the player was in the organization on August 31st and is replacing someone who is on the injured list and has served the minimum amount of time required for activation. For example, a player on the 10-day IL who has been on it for at least 10 days, or players on the 60-day IL that has been on it for at least 60 days. Players who are acquired in September or after are ineligible.
Yeah, so again, you'd have to claim him today.
Yes, you would have to claim him today.
Unless you can claim him over the weekend, which I don't know what the weekend were. I don't know if the MLB business office is open on the weekends.
And
but
Monday
you would
being
have
a
to
holiday.
claim him today. And Monday's a holiday. That is well played by the Red Sox. You release him today and make somebody have to take his contract if they really want him. There might be some contending teams that do.
I'm looking at the trade waiver and August 31st deadline thing. I'll give a quick summary of that because we've only got about 20 seconds for the bed hits, which reminds me, lower that.
Yeah. So you got 48 hours to claim the player. If no claim is made within a 3-day period, the player has cleared waivers. And then the original team can option the minors, trade, or release. And they're probably going to release Walker Buehler, and we'll see. But if that's the case, then he will not be able to be used in the postseason. Well played by the Red Sox. I don't know is Walker Buehler worth $6 million?
No.
For what he would give you for this season? I don't think so. That's going to be an interesting decision for a lot of teams. We'll keep you updated on that. Noon lunchtime hour. I heard Jersey Mike's has arrived at my hotel. Maybe I'll go get that and come back. Who knows? Braden Surprenant Show rolls on.
San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And a happy Friday to everybody out there at America's finest city. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show. Getting ready to start the noon lunch hour. Brought to you by the Craft Taco, bold flavors in Sorrento Valley and Balboa Park's Natural History Museum. Open late on Fridays for the Nat at Night. Nat at Night, each and every Friday. So if you're not tuned into the Padre game tonight, be sure to go to the Nat. Get some Craft Taco. Having a good night at the Nat. Padres are out of town, taking on the Minnesota Twins, getting ready for a 3-game series for the Minnesota Twins in Minnesota, the Twin Cities, coming up this weekend. Padres' first game of the series will start today at 5:10 Pacific time. Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 4:10. And to dive back into Padres baseball and give us a preview of the series against the Minnesota Twins is their broadcaster, Cory Provus, who joins me on the Braden Surprenant Show. Cory, what's going on? How's your Friday going?
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on and diving in. Give us a little preview of the Minnesota Twins. Obviously, with the new schedule, we get to see you guys every single year now. But for most of the time, don't pay too much attention, at least on the West Coast of the National League West, to the American League Central. Twins obviously are not in a place that they would like to be in terms of the overall standings. But when talking about this season for Minnesota going into the year, what were the expectations for the Twins after they left camp in spring training?
I mean, certainly I don't think I'm being a homer because A.J. Hinch is even on record saying this, the manager of the Tigers, that the Twins had, at least on paper, the most talented roster entering the season. Sadly, Royce Lewis got hurt again. He popped his hamstring in mid-March, so his season began delayed, but everybody loved the bullpen entering the year. It was projected to be, if not the best, certainly a top 2, top 3 bullpen in the game, and it was performing in that way. A little bullish too on the top end of the rotation with Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober. You liked what you had, and then Byron Buxton coming into a year in a way that we had not seen in years, and that he didn't have surgery this offseason. So there was a lot to like about this team and a healthy Carlos Correa and an emerging farm system with some young talent that you thought this was going to be a formidable team to start the year, but they got off to a dreadful start in April. They began the year around 7-13, but then as the calendar flipped into late April into May, they became the hottest team in baseball when they saved their season for a second straight year, winning 13 straight games. Had a great month of May, 18 wins in the month of May, but then injuries caught up to him in June, and the starting pitching, which was among the game's best, plummeted, and really the Twins season went south starting in June, and that's kind of why they did what they did at the trade deadline and pretty much overhauling their team and trading away 40% of the roster on deadline day.
Yeah, and as that's why I kind of brought it up. I mean, I didn't think you were being biased. I mean, going into the season, a lot of talented players on the Minnesota Twins that you obviously know about, and you look at the amount of players that Minnesota ended up shipping off. I mean, you don't ship off a lot of good players. Teams don't acquire bad players usually at the deadline. And they had that graphic after the trade deadline where only 17 guys on the 26-man roster. That had been one of the craziest deadlines you've probably experienced as the broadcaster of the Twins.
Oh, without question. And remember, the Twins hit the All-Star break. They were 2 games under. They just lost that last day before the All-Star break. They lost a home game to Pittsburgh, but still went 6-9 on a homestand leading up to the All-Star break. And then, okay, you're 2 games under, but you're beginning the second half. You're playing a series at Colorado, at the Dodgers, and coming home to play Washington. You thought, okay, and that's all before the deadline. You thought, okay, let's see how they do. And then they stumbled. They became the first team to lose a series to the Rockies at Coors Field, dropping 2 out of 3 there, and had a heartbreaking rubber game series loss to the Dodgers, then came home, lost the series to Washington, and that was it. I think any momentum they had going into the break and any possibility that they had about being buyers in terms of selling, that went by the wayside with the way that they just fell apart those first 10, 11, 12 games, if you will, out of the All-Star break. I think put them in a spot that did what they did, and some of this wasn't surprising because many of the guys they moved, Braden, were on expiring contracts. I mean, Willie Castro was going to be free agent, Harrison Bader, many of these guys were going to be free agents. And so it wasn't a shock to see them move those guys, but to see them move as many bullpen arms, that was, to me, I think, the more surprising aspect of every decision that was made.
Yeah, they had young, controllable arms, too, with guys like Griffin Jacks, who I know, some of the Padres brass were, poking around with at the trade deadline. And, even guys like Carlos Correa, who had that big contract, ends up getting shipped off. The comments, obviously, at the All-Star break, for Byron Buxton, saying he's going to be a Twin for life. He wasn't going to waive the no trade. To see the mass exodus was obviously really crazy for everybody on the outside of the Minnesota Twins. So now moving on, they had to replace all those players with young players. And so far, obviously not been great in the wins column, have kind of struggled since the deadline, but have had some bright spots on this roster. I mean, they're Major League Baseball players. Matt Wallner, 7 homers, 990 OPS. Luke Keeschel as 4 homers and a 976 OPS in 27 games to start his career. What is the new look Minnesota Twins, and who are some of the players that have shined and now an opportunity on the field?
Well, the 2 names you mentioned, I think, are at the top of that list. And, Matt Wallner's a homegrown first-round pick. He's a native Minnesotan from Forest Lake, just outside the metro. So he's been around a couple of years, and he dealt with some injury earlier in the season. He missed time in the first half with a hamstring injury. He's got a big arm. He's got one of the best outfield arms in the game. He's not the fleetest of foot, though, so he doesn't take the greatest first step in right, but he's got just a cannon in right field that is fun to watch, and he gets the ball as far as anybody in the game. The high strikeout, but high power rate, yet he's got 20 home runs, and he's got fewer than 40 RBI, which is pretty hard to do. So that's the kind of season that Wallner's having, but he's on a burner right now. I think San Diego fans, you're going to enjoy watching Luke Keeschel in this series. Not a household name, some West Coast ties. He's from California, but also he played collegiately at Arizona State, and he was a high pick. And he didn't make the team out of camp, and then debuted in April, but then got hurt. He got hit by a pitch by Kyle Hendricks and suffered a broken bone in his forearm and missed around 90 games. And he returned that second series out of the trade deadline and has been among the game's, exciting players. He has some power, has some speed. His defense at second needs a little work. It's not great there, but he's also 12 months and change removed from Tommy John surgery. So his arm isn't, kind of where it's going to be moving forward, just coming back from the broken forearm, but also the Tommy John surgery is all part of his recovery. I think you'll enjoy seeing, too, Zebby Matthews pitch here tonight. I'm sure not a household name, but I believe Zebby did throw. I think he faced the Padres in San Diego last year, but the Twins are really high on him, too. He's a guy that's got great strikeout numbers. His second season, a guy that a year ago was pitching at A-ball, Double-A, and just skyrocketed up the system to make his debut last year. He throws hard. Velocity, though, for Zebby was down in his last start. That's worth tracking tonight. So there is some young talent. I mean, there is some young talent. But the difference now, and this happened to the Twins with their game in Toronto on Wednesday, if they're in a tight game, you get to the middle to late innings, the top 5 guys are all gone. I mean, the top 5 bullpen guys they had, on July 25th are not here on August 30th. I mean, they're gone. And that's the difference now. Can they hang on? Can they find a way to just kind of add and see who can fill in a high leverage spot that they were not throwing in earlier in the year.
We're talking with Cory Provus, who is the Twins television broadcaster right here on the Braden Surprenant Show. Came to the Minnesota Twins radio play-by-play guy back in 2012. And, we talked a lot about the Twins, Cory, but, you got to join the Brewers radio booth back in 2009, got to work alongside Bob Uecker, and, he passed away last season. And, what was it like? We, as a broadcaster myself, I do play-by-play at a local college here in San Diego. I've had a lot of broadcasters on this year, and I always like to pick their brain on different broadcasting things. But it's for you to be able to work with a guy like Bob Uecker. What was that experience like? What was Bob like?
I mean, he always had to be on. It was not easy being him because he had to always light up a room, and he had to constantly be on. And when you walked in the room, you felt like, hey, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to chuckle here, and who knows what's going to happen, where the conversation is going to go, because I'm going to engage with Bob Uecker. But for me, I can say that it was the best remedy for a bad day. And you think, boy, you have a bad day broadcasting big league ball. No, you don't have a bad day, but there's some days, man, you just don't have it. It could be something going on with your own family. You've traveled, you're in the middle of 20 games in 20 days. You've been in 3 or 4 different time zones, and man, you could see that off day coming. You're not right there. You got one more series to go. And you have that, you feel it, but then when I would sit on the left and Bob was on my right, just 2 feet away, I knew that for the next 3 hours I was going to laugh, I was going to learn, and I think about him every day. I have a patch. All the players are wearing this Uecker patch, and I was kind enough to get one during spring training. They sent me one. I keep that in my bag. I keep a picture of him with me in the booth. He meant the world to me, and I would not have this job without him. And he endured 2 open heart surgeries in 2010. We were together 2009, 10, and 11, and 2 open heart surgeries in 2010. He came back strong in 2011. That Milwaukee team was really good, playoff team, 2 wins shy of winning the pennant. And then the Twins job came open that winter, and I was offered the job. And I asked him, I said, hey, if you don't want me to take this job because of all that you went through, I'll say no. And instead he said, Pro, if you don't take that job, I'll kill you. I'm not messing around. I'll kill you if you don't take that job. And so once he said that to me, my next phone call was to my wife. And then my second phone call was to the Twins saying, I'm going to take the job, but I needed his stamp of approval in order to do that.
That's a pretty cool story, Cory. I'm glad you got to share that with us. And we have a lot of young aspiring broadcasters that listen to our show, because we have a lot of the play-by-play guys on, and we've had a couple of them sit in studio with us to kind of learn the business and everything like that. So what would you give, what's the best advice you would give to anybody that wants to be the next Cory Provus?
Well, I would say a couple things. I think with radio, I think if you're doing a game on radio, and I love radio, I hope to go back to radio, one day when it's all said and done. I think it's impossible to be too descriptive. I think it's impossible. I think the easy thing to do is, a game like tonight. Let's see that Padres are pitching. Cortez is on the mound. The lefty has the sign, the kick, and the pitch. And Lewis rolls one over to short in the hole. It's Bogarts, makes the play, and throws him out. That's a boring way to describe a routine ground out. What did Bogarts do? So instead, Cortez, here's the kick and the pitch, and Lewis pulls a ground ball in the hole at short. Bogarts to his right. He'll backhand and a chest-high throw across to Arise is in time for out number 1. I mean, I just think right there, I think you got more of a description in terms of what just happened. What did I see? You got a blank canvas and paint the most vivid, colorful picture imaginable. With outfielders, I would say he makes a cap-high catch, or he grabs it above his right shoulder. Instead of just saying, he caught it. Where? How? What happened? Did he catch it next to his gold cap? Did he catch it on the run? Did he make a basket-style catch? I mean, things like that. That's what I would always challenge myself to do every day is, how can I make the most routine play, the most ordinary play sound different than the prior one or the next one? And that's something that I would always challenge myself to do, is that don't just sit back and be lazy. Challenge yourself. Be descriptive. Don't be late. And then I think listen to the games best. Like I am a nerd about listening to broadcasters because I think like Pat Hughes, the way that he enunciates and the way that he inflects is really hard. And he doesn't miss it. He inflects the right word. So it's a line drive to left over, a leaping Bogarts. And I think instead of a line drive, I just think what is he inflecting? And I think that's the stuff that I pick up on when I listen to my colleagues is, okay, I like that. How he or she did that makes a lot of sense to me. And then I'll follow up by just saying that first gig, don't be picky. We all want to be, who doesn't want to be in San Diego? Who doesn't want to be on the beach and have a great time and live the life? But my first job was in a really small town in Virginia. And I was there for 3 years. And then I left and I went to North Carolina, Winston-Salem for 3 years. And I left there. And then I had a gig in Birmingham, Alabama for about a year. So I went where the work was, and I went where the work was, which was what I wanted to do. I never wanted to be a talk show host. I wanted to do games. So I turned down a potential job in Chicago to do sports updates on the All Sports station at 22 years old because I wanted to do games. And I took a play-by-play job calling Virginia Tech women's basketball in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I'm glad I did that because I would not be where I'm at if I didn't do that. So I'm kind of rambling here a little bit, but that's kind of where I lead and the advice that I pass along now to aspiring broadcasters.
Well, Cory, I'm glad you did that. That was great. The enunciation and pronunciation of certain words and certain aspects of broadcasting is very fascinating and definitely something that I will add to my repertoire. So if we get anything out of this, at least you got one person that is definitely locked into this, but I know a lot of high school kids that listen to our show are going to be very appreciative of what you said. Thank you for joining us. That was a fun conversation. Thanks for sharing the story about Bob Uecker, and have a fun couple of games with the Padres this weekend.
I'll leave you this too. And you think too, if you're calling baseball, if you're calling any sport, you think you're given the time and score enough inning, you're not. I guarantee it. I guarantee you're not. So time and score, inning, do it, mix it up how you do it. But if you think you're doing it enough, I guarantee you, if you listen back to your stuff, you're not. But thank you. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you very much. Cory Provus, Twins television broadcaster, joining us on the Braden Surprenant Show. Member of the Milwaukee Brewers radio booth in 2009. Got to broadcast alongside Bob Uecker for years. It's a cool story he told about Bob Uecker. He's obviously doing a great job with the Minnesota Twins. I love talking to broadcasters. You get to pick their brain on a lot of different stuff. We can went a little bit long with him, but again, same deal. Get to the information about the Minnesota Twins, but also, I nerd out on that. I hope you guys enjoy it. I know you've enjoyed a lot of the broadcaster interviews, but even Cory Provus, who's a major league broadcaster, his story about Bob Uecker was so cool. If you don't take that job, I'm going to kill you. From Bob Uecker. If Bob Uecker says that, you should probably take that job. It was a fun conversation. That was great. A big thank you to Frank Marchese, who does all of the work in trying to get the broadcasters on, dealing with the PR staffs. I get constant emails with them trading back and forth. It was great to get him on. He was great, Frank.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoy hearing them as much as you do. So always nice to get great guys on.
Yeah, that was a fun conversation. When we come back, we'll get you the high school football update for tonight. A lot of games going on throughout San Diego County. A lot of games going on outside the county, hence why I am in a hotel room. We'll talk about that when we come back and the important games to watch for this weekend in Major League Baseball as the noon lunchtime hour continues on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
High school games that are going on today. I don't know where the it's fixed. All right, it's fixed. Okay, we're good to go. Let's talk about the high school games today throughout San Diego County, since we have a couple of minutes before we get to the midday sports standout. Some of the games that John Maffey picked in the Union Tribune today: San Pasqual at Torrey Pines. San Pasqual's Robert Renteria did it all in week 1. He passed for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns while also running for 72. Torrey Pines countered with Blake Miller through the air and Dom Rocha pounding the ground in a 43-19 win over La Jolla. 2 balanced offenses square off in their first meeting since 2019. Torrey Pines and San Pasqual tonight at Torrey Pines. I like Torrey Pines in this game a lot more than I like San Pasqual, but that should be a good one in the North County. Over in City League action, University City playing host to East County West Hills. West Hills 0-1 on the season, UC 1-0. West Hills split time at quarterback last week, but couldn't stop Holtville's ground game. They gave up 349 yards rushing in a 44-19 loss. University City, meanwhile, exploded for 545 yards in a blowout over Rancho Christian, with Quinton DeMara and running back Deshaun Hilly leading the way. Can University City become a legit dark horse in D2? I think it's highly possible that University City not only makes D2, but can also get a little bit, make a little bit of noise in Division 2. I think they win tonight against West Hills and improve to 2-0. Mira Mesa is at Valhalla. Both teams are 1-0. Mira Mesa knocked off El Cap last week at home as they survived with just 143 yards of offense in an 11-0 slugfest over El Cap. Valhalla leaned on dual threat quarterback Jackson Newman and Ahmed Husseini, who scored 3 touchdowns in a 51-27 victory. The Norsemen play host to the Marauders. I like Mira Mesa on the road in this one, going out to East County. Oceanside is at Carlsbad. Oceanside trying to bounce back from last week, where Granite Hills really put it on them out in East County. Anthony Barcanero, Oceanside quarterback, threw for 299 yards last week, but the Pirates gave up 652 yards to Granite Hills in a tough loss. Carlsbad looked explosive with Eli McNeil at quarterback, the son of Thad McNeil, who is the head football coach at Carlsbad, averaging nearly 25 yards per completion in a 43-0 rout of Lakewood. I like Carlsbad to improve to 2-0. Santana is at Crawford tonight. Santana opened with a 30-0 shutout behind Ethan Miller's 203 yards passing in the air. Crawford struggled offensively. They managed only 207 total yards in a 36-13 loss to Monte Vista, though Khalid Ali rushed for 129 yards. I like the Sultans to improve to 2-0 over Crawford. Montgomery at El Cap, 2 teams that suffered a game 1 loss, but 2 teams still that look like they're going to be teams that can run some wins off here in 2025. Montgomery was dominated by San Diego last week, 22-0. They only gained 110 yards of offense. El Cap also shut out until late in the defensive battle with Mira Mesa, finishing with 143 yards. Both teams are desperate to avoid an 0-2 start. I do like El Cap a little bit more than I like Montgomery tonight. La Jolla Country Day at Mount Carmel. Both teams are 1-0 to start the year. La Jolla Country Day's Keenan Ward rushed for 169 yards and 4 scores last week. Mount Carmel impressed with Trevor Tiampo's 320 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, spreading the ball to multiple weapons in a 43-21 win over Westview. I like Mount Carmel at home this week to improve to 2-0. Point Loma is at Otay Ranch, 2 1-0 teams. Point Loma showed a lot of balance on their offense attack in a 42-24 win over Del Norte. Ryder Watson and Henry Hauser combined for 324 yards passing, and Romeo Carter racked up 236 yards receiving. That's an impressive day for the young man. Otay Ranch's quarterback A.J. Lopez accounted for 4 touchdowns in their win last week in a rout of Rancho Buena Vista. I like Point Loma to go down to the South Bay and beat Otay Ranch tonight. La Costa Canyon at Mount Miguel. This is the game of the week. Number 5 LCC, number 4 Mount Miguel. La Costa Canyon looked really good last week in a 43-14 win over St. Augustine. Huge plays on offense, made big plays on defense, and made some special teams plays. Mount Miguel stunned San Marcos. I don't know if it's too much of a stunner. They were able to hold off San Marcos' 2-point conversion at the end of the game to win 28-27, sealing it with that late defensive stop. Mount Miguel was in a little bit of a high wire act last week. LCC cruised over St. Augustine. I like the Mavericks going down to Spring Valley and getting a victory over Mount Miguel today. We'll see how that game plays out, but that should be a really good one in the East County. Other notable games for you in high school football. El Camino is at Chino Hills, out of county. That game starts at 7 o'clock tonight. Modern Day Catholic will take on Granite Hills out in the East County. That game starts at 7. Castile from Arizona will travel out to San Diego to take on Helix. That game starts at 7 o'clock out in La Mesa. Cathedral Catholic is up here in San Jose. They're taking on St. Francis tonight at 7 o'clock. Oak Ridge from the Bay Area comes down to take on Mission Hills, who was coming off of a big win last week. They're going to look to try to improve to 2-0. And then Tesoro, the Titans are coming down to San Marcos to take on the San Marcos Knights at 7 o'clock. Those are all the notable games. Those are all the good games in town this week. Again, those are the picks that I have. There's other games on the docket. If you want to see who is playing tonight, you can check out Max Preps, or John Maffey does a good job with the San Diego Union Tribune, keeping all of the scores and updates in the paper. So that's a look at some of the high school games tonight. It should be a fun Friday. We will talk about how everybody did coming up on Tuesday, since we'll be off on Monday. But it's going to be fun. I mean, there's a lot of people. We have a decent amount of Rancho Bernardo Bronco parents in the chat. And I know RB is traveling out to Brawley. That's going to be hot. It's going to be very hot out at Brawley. So hopefully you guys travel safe, and good luck to the RB Broncos that are doing that coming up today, if they haven't left already. So a lot of teams leaving the county today to play games. Obviously, Brawley's part of the section, so all the teams in the Imperial County have to play in San Diego section in general. But that's the local high school football update. When we come back, we're still looking for a contestant for a midday sports standoff, and we're going to get to some of the games that matter around Major League Baseball this weekend. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. Braden Surprenant Show rolls on in the noon hour on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. The show's flying by. A good conversation with Cory Provus earlier in the hour. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. Frank does a good job getting guests on the show and people that we like talking to. If you missed that interview, you can go back and listen wherever you get your podcasts. All of our shows are in podcast form on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on social media at B_SURP, at BSURP. Follows all of my accounts. If you want to follow Frank F. Marks with a Z, 324 on social media, be sure to give him a follow on Twitter, Instagram, all of those things as well. You can follow our show, B_SURP show, on social media as well. If you haven't done so already, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on the Braden Surprenant Show YouTube page. We're over 500 now, and I think we can have super chat abilities and stuff. I have to relook at that over the weekend because some of that stuff got approved, during the week when I'm working on a bunch of stuff. But we broadcast this show on the Braden Surprenant Show YouTube page as well as the 97.3 The Fan YouTube page. So if you haven't done so already, if you're watching, which I know a lot of you are, on YouTube, give us a like. It helps us out, helps us push our show out to more Padres fans, out to more Aztec fans. We're talking Aztec football today, out to high school football fans. I mean, there's a lot of different sports that we cover and a lot of people that don't know we exist still. So be sure to give us the like, try to share us as much as possible, subscribe. Again, people hear the word subscribe and they think pay. It's free. It's free to subscribe. All it does is it helps us out a little bit, but also what it does for you guys is you don't have to search for us when you jump on YouTube if you want to watch. It's right there ready to go. You just hit the subscriptions page and all the things you subscribe to are right there, and that's going to be where we're going to be. So subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds. And if you're watching on 97 through the Fan and you're watching on the Fan's YouTube account, we've done the hard part for you. If you click the description below, whether or not you're on your phone or on a laptop, or if you're watching on your smart TV, or if you're watching on your fridge, we do have a listener that watches on the fridge, which is super cool, by the way. You can click on the description, and the top link in the description is the link to the Braden Surprenant Show YouTube page. Click on that, and then click subscribe. It does it's a huge favor for us. We really appreciate it. So thanks again for everybody that's already done it. A lot of people that watch over on the Braden Surprenant Show page have their own little chat over there, which is great. So the diehard Braden Surprenant Show fans, we don't have any names. They have the Scravenators and everything like that. People try to throw out different names. I don't know what the names could be for our show. But
the Wind Sox. The
super loyal listeners for the show, a lot of them like to hang out in the Braden Surprenant Show page, YouTube chat. They do that. So Jake Waters with the super chat. Yeah. There we go. More support. We appreciate it. So we appreciate all of you guys for doing that. Follow us on social media. Like this video. Like the video on the Braden Surprenant Show page. Subscribe to both. We appreciate it. Don't be a Windsock. Haven't called too many people Windsocks recently, Frank.
No, we have not.
Haven't handed out a lot of fouls either.
That could be our fan.
Is everyone be well behaved?
The fouls were flying yesterday at the end of the game.
I cannot hear you, Frank. Why can't I hear you?
Yeah, exactly. Why can't you hear me?
Still can't hear you.
That is an interesting
not great.
Conundrum.
I wonder why my return's off. All right. Well, that's
cool.
going to make it difficult to it's going to make it difficult to do the game.
It is.
If I can't hear you. I still can't hear you. I have no idea what you're saying. But apparently they can listen to me because the chat can still respond to what I'm saying. So anyway, I don't know why I can't hear you at all.
2 different shows, folks. This is going to be fun. 2 completely different shows.
No idea what Frank is saying. Unless he's talking down the IFB to Dave Marcus, which could be the case.
No, it is not.
So, there you go. Hey, I got Frank now. Oh, that's weird. I wonder why. Hopefully everything's going over the air. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, we are.
But, okay. But I can't hear you unless you talk in the IFB.
Yeah, which then keeps me from going over the air.
during the next break. I don't know why that's the thing. I'll have to reconnect my system. But anyway, aside from that meeting, it is time to get to our midday sports stand-up. Let's see if I can hear any of the listeners or Frank.
Welcome to Midday Sports Stand-Off on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
No, it's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
All right, we're going to try this. So, Braden, I'm guessing, Braden, you didn't hear any of that, I'm guessing, did you?
I still can't hear you. I can't hear the programming either, which is sweet. So
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
if we can
good.
even do this right now. So I don't know how to fix that, if there's anything on offline or whatever. But I have no idea what you're saying unless you talk to the IFB. And I don't even know if that's going over the air because it's the IFB.
No, me
So-
talking over the IFB does not go over the air.
Yeah, nothing.
Well, how
Okay,
did wait?
sweet.
How did
So,
you know what I just said?
We're going to
Hold
have to punt on the game. And I'm going to have to talk about something else. And then we're going to have to fix this problem when we go to break for the 1 o'clock hour. Time to reboot everything on my end and see what's going on. But as of right now, everybody can still listen to me on YouTube. So I'm going to talk about the games that you need to pay attention to this weekend for Major League Baseball. Games that happened this week. Arizona was able to beat Milwaukee twice. They split the series, so a little bit of help there. Again, until you catch the Dodgers, that number 1 spot is it's not that important. Okay, so you want to pay attention to the Brewers a little bit, but you're so far behind Milwaukee right now that I don't necessarily think, okay, I don't necessarily think you're going to be able to catch them. So we're still going to put it on the games to watch for, but at the same time, I wouldn't pay too much attention to Milwaukee Brewers. And until you pull within like a couple of games of Milwaukee and you have a lead in the division, there's really no reason to do that. Now, some good news, even though you lost 2 out of 3 this week, the good news is Chicago got swept by San Francisco. Giants beat the Cubs 4-3 yesterday. San Francisco swept the series over Chicago. That's good news because you're only a game behind Chicago in the standings. And you want to be able to catch Chicago, so you're hosting the Cubs if you happen to go to the wild card instead of going to Chicago and going to a place of a team that has a winning record. Because as of right now, the San Diego Padres have not done well against teams with a winning record on the road this season. They haven't done well against teams with a winning record on the road. And that's exactly what that situation would be. Winning record on the road. Cubs got swept this week. It's good news. Philadelphia was able to beat Atlanta last night. That's not good news necessarily for the Padres, as you want to try to track down Philly for the 2 seed in the playoffs if you could beat up on the Dodgers. Mets and Marlins was this week. Marlins did beat the Mets last night. That is the start of a 4-game series this weekend. Puts you at a little bit of a difference between between the Padres and the New York Mets, with the Mets trailing the Padres. So with those games that happened this week, Padres have a 3-game lead on New York, a 7-game lead on Cincinnati, and are a game behind Chicago for that top wild card spot. In terms of the division standings, again, as we mentioned before, both the Padres and the Dodgers were off. Dodgers have won 4 straight games. They have now increased their lead to 2 games over the San Diego Padres. So it's now a 2-game lead over the Padres in the standings in the National League West. Now, games this weekend. Atlanta and Philly will continue their 4-game series tonight. Bryce Elder for Atlanta going against Ranger Suarez of Philadelphia. That game will get underway at 3:45 p.m. Pacific time. Milwaukee plays Toronto this weekend. That's a fun matchup. And for a lot of people in baseball, not here in San Diego, because obviously we think the Padres are going to make the World Series, but it could be a World Series preview between Milwaukee and Toronto. That will start at 4:07 p.m. Pacific time. Obviously, if you're thinking about trying to track down Milwaukee as the number one, you want to pay attention to that. Freddie Peralta will start for Milwaukee against Shane Bieber for the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, that starts a 3-game series this weekend starting at 4:07. Miami and the New York Mets will get underway at 4:10 Pacific time. Eri Perez will go for Miami, 6-3 with a 3.44 ERA. Jonah Tong making his major league debut tonight for the New York Mets. So we'll see how that happens. We'll see how that works out for New York tonight at 4:10. At 5:40, the Cubs are taking on the Chicago Cubs are taking on the Colorado Rockies. Need some Rockies help a little bit if you're the San Diego Padres. Cade Horton's going for the Cubs. He's 8-4 with a 2.88 ERA. Colorado setting up Herman Marquez, who's 3-11 with a 5.67 ERA. Arizona and the Dodgers will start a 3-game series this weekend. Zach Gallen going for Arizona. Blake Snell going for the Dodgers. That's a 7:10 start. Obviously, a lot of eyeballs will be on that game. As for the Padres, they will take on Minnesota tonight for a start of 3. That game gets underway. Game 1 gets underway at 5:10 Pacific time. Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt will start at 4:10. Now, in terms of some other scheduled programming for the rest of the day, Gwen and Chris will be on after me at 2 o'clock. And at 2:40, Mason Miller is joining the show. It was supposed to be Ryan O'Hearn. A couple of things got moved around. Instead, you'll hear Mason Miller on Gwen and Chris coming up at 4 o'clock today. At 2:40 today. So that's going to be fun, getting to hear from Mason Miller for the first time as a member of the San Diego Padres in a first of interviews, at least on the radio waves here on 97.3 The Fan. So that's good news for us here. But Padres and Twins will go this weekend for a 3-game series. We got the preview from Probes from Cory Provus, who is the play-by-play man for the Minnesota Twins. He said Zebby Matthews is fun to watch on the hill. He's 3-4 with a 5.30 ERA, going against Nestor Cortez. It'd be nice to see another good outing out of Nestor Cortez. See if he could build off the last one he had against LA. And we'll see what he's got tonight. But the thing that was mentioned in our interview with the Twins television play-by-play broadcaster was that tonight's starting pitcher for Minnesota, his velo was way down in his last outing. So that's something obviously to monitor in tonight's game, see how he does against the San Diego Padres. I had some people in the YouTube chat trying to figure out what a windsock was. A windsock is just somebody that blows has the opinion of whatever which way the wind is blowing. That is a windsock. Some people, I think, put some descriptions in there. A fan who likes to overly complain but fails to offer any reasonable solution to their complaints. That is also a windsock. That's good on Jacob. Jocelyn in the chat says she has a 13-year-old that might be a windsock. That's bad news. We got to flip the windsock thing. As Jake Waters in the chat said, don't be a windsock, and he draws the foul. 2 merchandise T-shirts we need to make. Maybe we do, Frank. He draws the foul and don't be a windsock shirts. That'd be fantastic. As a lot of people said, with the we have a lot of listeners that have kids that play for Rancho Bernardo high school football. They're going out to Brawley today. That is a long trip to Brawley for a section game, and it's going to be hot. I don't know what the temperature is right now in San Diego. I'm sure it's smoking hot right now. It feels like it. Up in San Jose, once the marine layer burnt off, it got super hot up here in San Jose too. So we'll see how the evening goes. Again, I'm up here in San Jose for the Cathedral Catholic St. Francis game. And obviously I'll let you guys know what happened in the game coming up on Tuesday. Again, some housekeeping points. We will be off on Monday for Labor Day. We won't be back until Tuesday. And that's when we're going to be all our local shows. So Padres and Twins will play 3 games before our next show, and the Padres will even they will even play a game against Baltimore before we're on the show again. So that being said, Gwen and Chris coming up in the next at 2:00 in the next hour. We want to dive a little bit more into Padres baseball in terms of, and there was something that we've wanted to talk about this week, but it's been a pretty good showing out of the players that have been added to the Padres and getting production from more places, and talking about how AJ Preller might have done one of his best jobs at the trade deadline. We'll talk about that as we start the 1:00 hour. We will also talk more about some college football this weekend. A lot of great games in college football. And then Drake Hills will also join us at 1:35. I'm Braden Surprenant. This has been the Braden Surprenant Show, hour number 4 when we come back.
Nights at 6 p.m. on 97.3 The Fan.
Do you know the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat every day? At SDFatLoss.com, we know the secret. Our doctor-developed, easy-to-follow weight loss program helps you lose weight fast, naturally, and safely with no drugs or injections, no prepackaged. Program helps reset your metabolism so you can lose weight quickly and keep the weight off for good with an easy-to-follow maintenance plan that includes ongoing personal support and
summers ago, and I've kept the weight off. You're going to get $200 off.
show on a Friday. And this hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Nativa Interiors. This Labor Day weekend, 2 iconic design companies are joining forces for a warehouse sale. Join Nativa Interiors and hold it contemporary home in Miramar for huge discounts on living, dining, bedroom, and outdoor furnishings. Call or text for more details at 619-215-6893. Hello, Frank.
Hello.
All right.
How are you?
We figured out the problem.
I missed you, buddy.
Yeah, aren't you glad that I know how to do some of that stuff over there so I can remember all of the ways to fix problems?
Remember all the ways you broke them before and remembered how to fix them? Yes, I'm very glad for that.
Yes. Sometimes our board likes to flip things over to a different board where Gwen and Chris are getting ready for a show.
2 separate shows that we had in that last segment was actually very interesting. It didn't sound too bad either.
I have no idea what you said on any of that stuff. I was watching you talk and I had no idea what you were talking about. Did you play the midday sports standoff sounder?
I did, yes.
Bumper? Yeah, I was like, I have no idea when this is going to end. So I just sat there and I was like, I think he'll start talking after this is over, but I don't really know. And so, yeah. And I knew people could hear me because on YouTube, they were still responding to everything I was saying.
Yeah, you were still good. Everything was still fine. It's just we couldn't communicate with each other, which unfortunately was the most important part of this whole gimmick here.
Go Aztec says you were talking smack.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay,
Totally.
Frank. Sounds good.
Yep.
Just wait for Adam to start talking smack about Penn State.
Like I said, we had our 2 separate shows that we were running there at the same exact time. We're actually very, very good. Quite aligned quite well.
Are you gonna label the are you gonna label that segment on the chaptering A Tale of Two Shows? You should. That'd have been great.
That's a great idea, actually. Hold on.
A Tale of Two Shows. Go back and change it before everybody starts listening on the Odyssey app. A Tale of Two Shows. Charles Dickens. I read that book too. I had to read that book in 8th grade, maybe 7th grade. Can't remember, but I definitely remember reading that book about the French Revolution. Fun stuff. Enough of the novel stuff that we talked about yesterday of the books we had to read growing up.
That's a novel idea.
That's a foul.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
That was good.
That was such a bad dad joke. Once you become a dad, then you can do the dad jokes. Until then, you can't do the dad jokes.
Just because you don't appreciate it doesn't mean it's bad. Like, come on.
I appreciate it. I just didn't think it was that good.
Oh, stop it. That was
The
good.
knee slapper. Ha don't show your legs.
Just
You're
the
in
knee.
trouble. You're in trouble now. Here we go. Frank showing his legs on a Friday. You have lost control. All right. There's a couple things I want to get to. Padres getting production from more places, which I want to get to next. And we do have college football to continue to talk about, Frank. And so now that I can hear you, I think we could do this segment. And I think you could play some college football music in the background as well.
Oh,
it's college football day. Oh, I can hear that. Oh, yeah. That's loud. Do not put Frank's legs on a T-shirt. I will not do that. All right, college football from last night. Had some fun games. How much college football were you able to consume last night, Frank?
A little bit. I got some of the Boise State, Southern Florida game. I'm watching.
They looked bad.
Yes, they did. Boise State looked awful. Watching a little bit of the Nebraska-Cincinnati game right now. Got to watch a little bit of Buffalo get torn up by Minnesota, and then got the first half of the Aztec game yesterday.
I was able to watch a handful of those games too. I watched the South Florida and Boise State game on the plane, and I don't know. I mean, that is the Boise State in this dream world of the Power Act 12 is supposed to be the premier program. They got smoked by USF.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, what was it? Mason Maddox. What's that guy's name? Their quarterback? Maddox?
Maddox, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, he looked so pedestrian. He looked like a game manager yesterday. They could not move the ball. They talked about they new running game that they have, trying to replace Genty. They got this great scat back that's, shifty, and everything's going to be great and all that stuff. They couldn't block for him. I mean, the offensive line wasn't very good. South Florida, who has a good defensive line, was all over the place, making a lot of plays. They had the trick plays working. Offense could not be stopped. I mean, South Florida outclassed Boise State. Is Boise State going to be one of those teams like Florida State last year, just a major disappointment after going to the playoff?
They very well might be. So I know for a fact that we are at least 3-3 going into this big weekend. But yeah, it's amazing how much Boise State relied on Ashton Genty last year, and you saw that with their performance against South Florida yesterday.
I thought Nebraska looked pretty good last night. Cincinnati had a chance to win the game. They got the ball with under 2 minutes to go on their own side, and really at their own 10. They drove down the field. They got into comfortable field goal range, and then they threw a pick in the end zone. Early downs, had the field goal in the back pocket, unable to attempt a field goal. They lose by 3.
Good.
They looked better than I thought they would. Hey, Taylor Swift was at the game with Travis Kelce last night.
No way.
They left early. Maybe that's the reason why Cincinnati lost.
No way. They were there?
Yeah, you had Dylan Raiola, that's mini Mahomes, out there trying to pretend like he's Patrick Mahomes, playing in front of Patrick Mahomes. And then you had Travis Kelce and his fiancée Taylor Swift watching the old alma mater play in their home building.
I can't believe that they would go to a game at Arrowhead Stadium. That's incredible.
It's not a Chiefs game. Doesn't Taylor Swift have like a tour she has to be on or something?
I don't know.
She not on tour right now?
Again, it's been a while since I've had to watch her.
You're not. I'm sure there's a Swiftie or two in our audience.
I'm sure there is somebody message in.
I will say this. TCU hosts Cincinnati the same week the Chiefs are in town to play the Cowboys. Maybe Taylor Swift makes an appearance.
Oh boy.
That would be,
that's your shot.
The college kids would lose their mind.
That's your shot right there.
That's not my shot for anything. I will not be at that game. As a season ticket holder, I don't care about Cincinnati coming to town. I don't
care about.
That doesn't mean I don't respect them as an opponent.
Swift, though.
Not that much. It would be kind of cool to see her at a TCU game, but watch Travis Kelce's team get their ass beat at Amon G. Carter Stadium, but that's neither here nor there. Everybody else last night was pretty much chalk of what you expected it to be. I saw this. This is some sicko stuff, dude.
Uh-oh.
UCF last night had a 17-play drive where they went 50 yards and took 9 minutes and 50 seconds off the clock, and it ended in a punt. That is the most college football drive I have ever heard. Ever. 50 yards, 9 minutes and 50 seconds off the clock, 17 plays. It ended in a punt against Jacksonville State.
I was saying it yesterday, and I was getting a little grumpy in the heat, I will admit. But
I could tell. Your texts were very grumpy.
Yes. Yeah, I was getting very grumpy in the heat, but I was texting my friends. I'm like, I really missed college football. I miss taking 45 minutes to play 15 minutes with nothing of note happening. I am so happy I'm here right now.
Oh, man.
College football is back, baby.
That is college football being back at its finest. UCF wins 17-10 over Jacksonville State last night. Ohio gave Rutgers a run for their money, so I can't say it was all, relative chalk. Wyoming shuts out Akron yesterday. Sick. Oklahoma State over UT Martin. UAB beat Alabama State. The big games last night, Nebraska over Cincinnati. Wisconsin was able to beat up on Miami. Tonight, there are a handful of games that start at 3 o'clock. Tarleton State, Army, Western Michigan, Michigan State. Wagner, Kansas, which I'll be paying attention to. Shout out Jack Stevens getting the start at quarterback for Wagner. Cathedral Catholic kid, Devin and Jalen Dye playing for the Kansas Jayhawks. So I'll be watching that a little bit. Auburn Baylor tonight's going to be a good game, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious to see his 3-headed quarterback monster for Auburn.
Again, I don't know how you have a disputed quarterback when you have Jackson Arnold, a former 5-star recruit, good enough to be the starter for Oklahoma. I don't know how that's not your runaway quarterback right now.
That
No
game
idea.
starts at 5 o'clock on Fox. Georgia Tech, Colorado is not a bad game at 5 o'clock on ESPN. The Chippewas are in town up here to take on San Jose State at 7:30 on Fox Sports 1. Some more games for you. Ohio State, Texas tomorrow. What do we got on that? What do you think's going to happen? I got Ohio State in that game. I know we picked them yesterday.
Yeah.
How do you think Arch Manning does against Ohio State?
I think he's going to be solid. I think it's going to be a decent game out of him, probably 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick. I'm not going to expect anything major because, again, it's another top program that he's going against, but I think it's going to be your average game, maybe 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Texas with Arch Manning, but Julian Sayin, the Carlsbad Lancer, getting the start for Ohio State. He's got the best player in college football on his team in Jeremiah Smith. Also have some returning stars on defense with Caleb Downs. Couple of brand new coordinators for Ohio State and a brand new quarterback. We'll see how Julian Sayin does. Hopefully he does well representing San Diego. Shout out to the Carlsbad Lancer. Jeremiah Smith might be the best player in college football. We talked about that. But Texas already bottled them up last year once. Can they do it again, or can he bounce back? Will Texas corners Malik Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo clamp down on Jeremiah Smith? Should be an interesting game. The Tiger matchup tomorrow is going to be fun. 2 top 10 teams with the most question marks, Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. Is nearly a statistical dead heat at quarterback. Both programs need to prove they can live up to the hype after recent disappointments. I think that game's going to be fun, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's going to be the battle for how to spell go, G-O or G-E-A-U. But going back to Texas and Ohio State for a second, I think I saw a stat yesterday that quarterbacks making their first ever start against the number 1 team are 0-16. So that does not go well for Julian Sayin.
We'll see how he does. Notre Dame at Miami's on Sunday. Floor versus ceiling showdown. Notre Dame steady, deep, defensive-minded. Miami flashy, risky, high variance. Which approach wins in this particular matchup? I like Notre Dame in that one. We talked about that yesterday. It should be a fun one. Alabama at Florida State. Lee Corso's final game day and the Seminoles' chance to shock the world. Bama looks loaded, but Florida State is desperate for redemption after a 2-10 season. I think that game's going to be closer than people think.
I
think Florida State covers.
I don't think Florida State is going to be as desperate as they were last year, but I don't see them winning this game. What was the spread?
The line
again?
is now 14.5. It's now it was 13.5 yesterday. It's now 14.5 in favor of Alabama.
I think, if I remember right, I think I took Florida State yesterday. I don't
Plus
remember.
the points.
Yeah, with the points. They're not winning this game, but they'll cover.
I don't think so either, but I do think they cover. Should be a fun one. Skyler won't want to hear that. No, she won't. Neither will Rod, by the way. Rod, big Bama guy, apparently. Yep. Penn State, Georgia, Oregon should all cruise in their first round game or first week games. Everyone's watching how their quarterbacks and receivers look before some tougher tests. How we feeling on Penn State tomorrow? They covering the 45 points against Nevada, whatever it is.
Nope. I told you I don't pick against monsters. I don't pick monster spreads like that. I'm taking Nevada on that one. And by the way, I did pick Alabama yesterday because you laughed when I said go Heffalumps.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did pick Alabama. You want to change your opinion now?
I
can't
might
change your pick now.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
might,
you can for
but
the fun, but you can't do it for your picks that you lost.
No, I'll stick with it. Go Heffalumps.
Penn State's favored by 43.5 tomorrow against Nevada.
Nope, they're not covering that. I'm sorry.
I think they are. I think they cover it. We didn't get to talk about Jerry Jones yet.
No,
we do that when we come back. We got some Padres talk as well. Drake Hills will join us at 1:35. Braden Surprenant show continues.
Hey, gang.
119 on the Braden Surprenant Show on a Friday, getting you ready for Padres baseball at 5:10. Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt at 4:10. Mason Miller is going to join Gwen and Chris today at 2:40, which is going to be fun. Ryan O'Hearn was expected to be on the show, but instead some things happened, and it will be Mason Miller. So the bad news is no Ryan O'Hearn. The good news is you do get Mason Miller on the Gwen and Chris program. Yesterday, this happened after the end of our show. I was going to the airport when I saw this. My group text was blowing up because my friend Matt in the chat. Actually, he's not in the YouTube chat. My friend Matt, who Tony's called out a couple of times, is a diehard Cowboys fan. And that's when I found the news, and I was like, this sucks. What are the Cowboys doing? They traded Micah Parsons yesterday to the Green Bay Packers for Kenny Clark back.
Yeah, and by the way,
and 2 first-round picks.
Say his name right. As Jerry Jones said, it's Michael Parsons, not Micah.
God. It's Micah. But Jerry Jones was on a roll yesterday. Apparently, not only did he mispronounce Micah Parsons' name multiple times and called him Michael. Micah Parsons, who is the best defensive player in all of the National Football League. I mean, the guy is a unicorn. You don't find guys like Micah Parsons. They're not just like readily available. Guys that could be an edge rusher and play a 5 technique, but also can play in the middle as a middle linebacker, can play out in space. This guy is a unicorn. And I said this before, the Cowboys will never be good with Jerry Jones still calling himself a general manager. He's not a general manager. In fact, he's barely an owner. Guy's getting too old to do any of these things. But the fact that they they couldn't work out a deal, they pissed them off, and then they go and trade him to Green Bay is lunacy. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. Do you have any sound from Jera? Acting like Jera? I know we talked about it off air. I don't know if you have anything, but Jera's like, he was unbelievable yesterday. I mean, he had the audacity, as Go Aztecs in the chat said, to compare the Herschel Walker trade to this. Remember the thing about Jera. Jerry Jones wants to show that he's the guy that can win a Super Bowl for the Cowboys, and it wasn't Jimmy Johnson. They had this animosity with Jimmy Johnson because Jimmy Johnson got all the credit for winning all the Super Bowls. Even though they won a Super Bowl after Jimmy left, it was still Jimmy's team, and that's when Jerry thought he was the reason why they were winning Super Bowls. But Jerry's not the reason why they won Super Bowls. It was Jimmy Johnson. Jerry needs to shut up and write a check. That's what Jerry needs to do. Like he did by buying the oil company and getting the oil out of the land in Texas or wherever it was, and then using that to buy the Dallas Cowboys. He almost bought the Chargers. How different would our jobs be if he bought the Chargers? You have Jerry's World sitting there in Mission Valley. It'd be a hell of a place to watch a football. We wouldn't be talking about Aztec football. We'd be talking about the Chargers. Jera. No, Jera is not. I don't think he is fit to be a general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think he has been fit to be the general manager of the Dallas Cowboys. And when I was in Texas, I used to tell all my friends that are Cowboys fans, y'all will never win with Jerry in charge. You won't. You will never win with Jerry in charge. Absolutely never. And that's not taken away from the fact that Jerry Jones is a good businessman. Jerry Jones built Cowboy Stadium. Jerry Jones made the Cowboys even more into America's team than they were before he bought the team. But Jerry Jones cannot run an NFL franchise. And you know who else can't do it? His kids. And until the Jones family relinquishes ability to build a roster, they will never win. I think there's more hope that Stephen Jones and company could probably do it better than Jerry. But the nepotism in professional sports works when the children of the owners or the children of the big-time coaches or front office people, whatever it may be, when those kids work for other organizations, it usually works out well. It works out better because they learn how to do things a different way. They're not in an echo chamber of just doing what daddy did and all this other stuff. The organizations that don't do well are the ones that just work for the organization that dad owns or work for the organization that dad works for. The Spanos family comes to mind. The Chargers would have been a lot better if they had one of the Spanos brothers work for another organization and learn how to actually do things. But, there they are. Still doing the same dumb things over and over again. And the Cowboys are a lot like that. I told my friend who was a Cowboys fan a couple of years ago about, because we're going to have to make decisions on Dak, on CD, and on Micah. They weren't going to be able to keep them all. And at the time, I thought Dak Prescott was a good quarterback. I still think he's a really good quarterback. He might be more of a franchise quarterback now than I originally thought, where he's good enough where you can't let him leave. And so you had to sign the quarterback. You don't have to sign every quarterback. Like, there are some quarterbacks that I don't think you had to sign. Like, I'm not a huge Brock Purdy fan. I don't think the Niners needed to sign Brock Purdy. I think the way that they were winning games and getting to the Super Bowl was they built from the trenches out, and they spent all the money in the trenches out, and they were winning with a guy that was making $1 million. Now that Brock Purdy has to be the guy because he's getting a lot of the money, we'll see if they can be able to win. And if they can win with him getting a lot of money, that means he deserves the money and he is that level of a quarterback. But if he needs help around him, which I think he does, because when Christian McCaffrey's out, the Niners suck, he's not worth the money that you would have to give. That's why I don't like a guy like Brock Purdy. You don't have to pay. A guy like Dak Prescott, you kind of have to pay. Guys like Kyler Murray, you don't have to sign Kyler Murray. He's hurt all the time. He's a mobile quarterback. That's a guy you don't necessarily need to sign. Like Joe Flacco. I think the best example is Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco with the Ravens won a Super Bowl. They beat the Niners in the Super Bowl, and Joe Flacco got rewarded handsomely. But Joe Flacco wasn't the reason why they were legit. It was their defense. I mean, he wasn't making a lot of money. And so when Joe Flacco got the contract, this is how it works in a salary cap league. This is why it's great. It's competitive. It makes things fun. For everybody that doesn't like a salary cap, this is what makes the NFL great. On top of other things, when the Ravens decided to sign Joe Flacco to a long-term contract, that was the nail in their coffin that they were not going to be good anymore. They were no longer going to be a franchise. They were not going to be a Super Bowl contender. I'm telling you right now, Brock Purdy's going to be that guy too with the Niners. I mean, just watch. And if he doesn't, then you know what? Maybe it is worth the money. You're going to find out if it's worth the money this year because now he's getting paid. Because when Christian McCaffrey's not playing, the Niners aren't very good. And they lost a lot of their weapons. They lost Deebo Samuel. They lost Brandon Ayuk. I mean, all these guys that were making that team very good. A lot of them got older now. Like, Deebo's not going to help the team out anymore. But you lose those players that enhance that quarterback's ability to be very good. So you go back to the Cowboys. Dak Prescott's good enough where you need to pay him. You can't let him walk. He is a franchise quarterback. He can win with not as much talent around him. When he goes down, the Cowboys suffer mightily. I mean, he is I would consider a franchise quarterback. I think he's fringe, but I think he's a franchise quarterback, somebody that you don't want to give up. So when you look at it, you had to sign Micah, you had to sign Dak Prescott, and you had to sign CeeDee Lamb. Those are the three guys. I said because Micah Parsons is a unicorn, and he wins in the trenches, and he was young, Micah to me should have been number one priority. Get that guy signed for a long-term deal. That's number one. Once you get Micah signed, then you get Dak signed. And you sign him to a long-term deal. Now, Dak's contract was up before Micah's contract was, obviously. So, and being a quarterback, I can understand why Dak Prescott would be a little bit more valuable than Micah Parsons. So I would go with Dak first, and then you sign Micah. You know I would not sign to a long-term deal? CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's good, but with receivers, they're really a dime a dozen. Unless you're signing Calvin Johnson or Jerry Rice or one of those receivers that's going to be good no matter where he goes because he is a Hall of Famer, you can win games with a bunch of different receivers. CeeDee Lamb is not at the level where you need to keep him over a guy like Micah Parsons. And what did the Cowboys do? They signed CeeDee first, and then they signed Dak, and then they didn't even get to sign Micah Parsons because they were going to play the game of franchise tagging and everything like that. And so you know what they had to do? They had to trade Micah Parsons, which is going to be a catastrophic failure for the Cowboys. Now, if they get those two first round picks are still pretty good. So maybe they can flip it into that. But I don't know what the Cowboys were doing. I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. Now, the money that Micah Parsons got is a lot from Green Bay. But to me, he is more valuable than CeeDee Lamb. And I think you can argue he might be more valuable than Dak Prescott. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going to jump in the chat and start talking about Super Bowls are the reason why quarterbacks are good, just shut up right now. That is the most terrible take ever. Enough of the Super Bowl conversation. Quarterback play is about being able to win with nothing around you. That's like an elite quarterback. There's a lot of guys that could do that. The Tom Brady's of the world, the Drew Brees. I mean, Tom Brady, even though like in the year that they lost to the Giants, he had talent. Tom Brady had a lot of years where he had like random guys playing receiver. I can't tell you how many times Phillip Rivers was out there with like Seyi Ajere-Tutu. Are you kidding me? He's still putting up big numbers. But if you look at, and people always get upset about the Brock Purdy thing. We're about to find out if Brock Purdy's good or not. Because he doesn't have the same level of weapons. He didn't have the same defense he used to have. I mean, they had to spend the money on Brock Purdy, which means everything else suffers. Quarterbacks, to me, that get the big dollars are the ones that can win despite having lesser talent. And I only think there's a handful of those guys in the league. And with every coming year, I think it's getting less and less and less. The era of great quarterbacks is over in the National Football League. It just passed by. And I'm talking about like Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, for a period of time, all of those guys, and there's even more, you had great quarterbacks. Right now, you probably got like maybe 4 to 5, and then maybe like some fringe guys like in the top 10. There's not a lot of those guys out there that you can go, we can put all our money in this player. He's taking us to the Super Bowl, regardless of what we have around him. And I always have that conversation. People always freak out. The quarterback, it is so hard to play quarterback in the National Football League. It is almost an impossible task. That's why there's not a lot of people that can do it. That's why there's not a lot of people that are elite. That's why there's not a lot of those guys you can sign to long-term deals. You're better off building up a roster, drafting a rookie. And look at the teams that have done it. They've done extremely well. Seattle won a Super Bowl because Russell Wilson was on a rookie deal and Legion of Boom was getting all the money. You can win like that. But as soon as those guys get their contract, all of a sudden, Super Bowls become a little bit harder to find. When we come back, Drake Hills will give us an update on San Diego FC. We'll finish up the show with Padres and Twins as we roll on a Friday. Final segment of the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We're sorry it's over on a Friday. Braden Surprenant Show, final segment. I'm up here in San Jose getting ready for a high school football game. Dons and Lancers as Cathedral Catholic takes on St. Francis tonight up in the Bay Area. I'm going to – the team already left. I'm still at the hotel. So that's I now kind of experience what Tony experiences to an extent with broadcasting from his hotel room and then having to meet people there or maybe leaving early. I could have not pulled this off broadcasting at the field, so I'm still in the hotel. They left at 1:15. They got a lot of stuff that they got to do. I think they're going to Mass, and then they got to go to Catholic school. And then I think they have a team meal and all that fun stuff, walk through, stuff like that. So I got like an hour before I get a ride over to wherever they're at. I don't know where they're at. They're somewhere in the Bay Area, I guess. I didn't know. They might be going to Stanford for Mass or something like that. I don't know. But we're up here on the trip. This is the one of two that we make this season to the Bay Area for high school football. So we will be getting ready for St. Francis here in a little bit, and I will be paying attention, obviously, to the Padres game. Thank God first pitch is 2 hours before we kick off, so I might be able to watch most of the game. I want to kind of monitor the Wagner, Kansas game. A lot of former players for us in that game as well. So that's what I'm doing the rest of the day. Fly back tomorrow. And then I got USD Cal Poly on Saturday, 5 o'clock at Torero Stadium for the first football game of the year for USD. They host Cal Poly tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We are off on Monday for Labor Day, so hopefully all of you guys have a fun and safe Labor Day weekend. Safe travels to all of you parents out there that are the RB parents that are driving out to Brawley that I've seen in the YouTube chat. And good luck to all the high school football teams out there in San Diego for week 2. Hopefully you guys all have a safe and fun night out there in the high school football world. San Diego FC has clinched a playoff spot. They did it on a draw last week here in San Diego against the Portland Timbers. They have a big match coming up against LAFC on Sunday at 7:45 Pacific time. And as he does each and every Friday, Drake Hills joins us on the Braden Surprenant Show to give us our Soccer 101. Drake, how's your Friday going?
Man, Friday is moving. We have survived what I thought was a southern day in San Diego yesterday. So, that the soccer season, at least in MLS, it's coming to an end. All the Premier League and European leagues are just getting started. So we've got a nice balance on a Friday here.
Nice balance. We got college football back. I know, Drake, you're a big college football fan. What do we got on the Oregon Ducks coming up this weekend?
Yeah, we got Montana State. We got the Cats. It was a nice little home warm up. Obviously, September is always a little weird in Oregon. It's it's still warm out. The leaves haven't turned yet. Obviously, the big games haven't hit the schedule yet. But you can't mess around with the Cats. They've done well for themselves at the FCS level. So I'll be paying attention to that one. And then, there's some big ones, though. I mean, I want to see Archie. I want to see Archie just like the next person. And,
he's going against the San Diego kid, too. Julian Sands starting at Ohio State.
That's
Carlsbad
right.
Kid.
He won. He's QB1 for the Buckeyes now. So that'll be an interesting matchup to see.
There'll be some fun college football stuff that we can talk about next week. But we get to our Soccer 101. San Diego FC able to clinch a playoff spot with a draw last week. We had Tyler Heaps on the show earlier in the week. Obviously, the locker room was not super thrilled about not winning the game last week, but a draw gets them a playoff clinch. They're the first team to clinch a playoff spot in Major League Soccer. When we started doing this segment, Drake, and they jumped off to a good start, I don't think either of us would have thought that they would have been the first MLS team to clinch a playoff spot.
No, I did not think that. I think that ultimately we were talking as this whole San Diego football club thing really got going this year was making the playoffs, right? It's just the buzzword of playoffs. And they're looking like they're going to do more than just make the playoffs. They're looking like Supporters Shield contenders. We've got Philadelphia Union that's at the top right now in terms of this, the Supporters Shield regular season champion trophy. Then we've got FC Cincinnati right behind San Diego FC in third. So it's going to be a big September, not to write off this weekend's games, because I think all three teams, including San Diego FC going up against LAFC, have some pretty big matchups. In fact, FC Cincinnati and Philly Union also play each other. So let's see what happens in that game, because if FC Cincinnati gets a win, you're looking at San Diego FC being in the Supporters Shield spot.
How important is the Supporters Shield for most teams in MLS? I mean, we talk about, the Padres winning the division, trying to win a division. It's kind of a nice little feather in the cap, but, ultimately when you get to the postseason, it's a different story. How much should San Diego FC try to go after maybe the Supporters Shield when they still got to worry about the playoffs too coming up?
I think feather in the cap is a good way to put it. It's bragging rights for the immediate present and future, right? Being able to lift a trophy. You do get a trophy when you win the Supporters Shield at the end of the regular season. So that's nice. But, to your point, Braden, you still got to go in the playoffs and do something, right? And so I think that from that perspective, there is the pro and con there. But if you were to think a little bit further ahead, you're thinking about this Supporters Shield as an opportunity to get into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And essentially what that is the best teams in all of North America and Central America and the Caribbean going up against each other at the beginning of the calendar year. So that's really what, in my opinion, and I'm sure Tyler Heaps probably feels something similar, is being able to compete at the highest level internationally. So it's a little bit of a bragging rights at the beginning, a little bit more of extra cash in your pocket, and international competition in the near future.
We're talking about Drake Hills, who is a contributing writer for Black Players for Change. He also published on ESPN.com not too long ago as well. Former USA Today Network MLS reporter, giving us the Soccer 101 that we do each and every Friday. Let's talk about the game against LAFC. I mean, obviously a big game now up in LA. They had the, Tyler Heaps mentioned a little bit of the ticket thing. He didn't want to talk about it, but the LAFC might have relinquished some tickets that they initially agreed upon as San Diego FC fans getting. It sounds like San Diego FC made the most of it. So a little bit of an early rivalry on there, but LAFC has recently signed a pretty important player and are off to a nice little roll right here. How do you see this game shaking out?
Yeah, I think, Tyler is probably right to kind of leave that alone, not because that there's much to go for, but there's really nothing there other than the fact that Heung-min Son, who is the face of Korean soccer and has been for over a decade now, signed for LAFC for $26 million. That is fourth all time in MLS history. That is the largest fee this year. But what San Diego FC has going is that they can go up to LA and BMO Stadium and they can say, yeah, we beat you guys 3-2 in March. And I think obviously things are a little bit different for both teams since that matchup. LAFC was in the mix of, speaking of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, they were in the midst of this year's competition. They had just beaten Columbus Crew in the round of 16 right before they had Inter Miami, right after they played San Diego in the quarterfinals. And so you're able to get a 3-2 win on the road, at home. And I think that, going up against LAFC this time around, Heung-min Son, this is his first game at home. So I actually was listening to that segment, Braden, and also reading my colleague Paul Tenorio's article about Son in The Athletic. A TikTok that they published, they got 135 million views on that. They had doubled their YouTube subscribers because of that signing. Not only that, but they have absolutely sold out of his home jersey. And the black jersey is on back order, and the white jersey is expected to sell out shortly. So that's just a little bit of context for the tickets thing. But on the field, I think San Diego, is going to have to figure out the Corey Baird situation. Obviously, he had to come off injured with a groin injury against Portland over the weekend. So that's whether it be Amal Pellegrino, David Vasquez, the loanee from Philadelphia Union. We'll see what the lineup looks like with injuries still kind of plaguing the San Diego FC team. But in terms of this game, it's going to be crucial because it's going to set up what September is, right? I think we can talk about the LAFC side. We can talk about the San Diego side. But LAFC is 4-2-3 since the Leagues Cup ended. So this isn't a team that, is in bad form. And they've also had 2 games in hand, or 3 if you're looking at San Diego FC. So it's going to be about Chris and that center back pairing up against Denny Bouanga and Heung-min Son. Can they continue their underappreciated and I think underdocumented defensive performance in making sure that this San Diego FC team is still keeping that double-digit goal differential against an LAFC team that is firing on all cylinders.
6 games left in the regular season for MLS games, added with a friendly match against Tijuana on September 16th. At the end of the season, Drake, San Diego FC is hosting the Supporters Shield. Your answer right now, why they're doing that is?
They're going to do that because Anders Dreyer is going to prove himself as the 2025 Landon Donovan MLS MVP, both in goals and in assists. And that's going to basically reflect what happened in the LAFC game at Snapdragon. You know, he had basically a contact in 2 of the 3 goals that were scored. And I think that he will continue to do that through September and the last 2 games in October.
Drake, always a pleasure talking to you. Always a pleasure talking some soccer. I always monitor the Oregon Ducks just for you, Drake, of course. Remember the Alamo, of course. But other than that, we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks again, man.
Hey, man, good luck to the Dons up there against St. Francis.
Thank you very much. Drake Hill's a fellow Don, obviously keeping close tabs on Cathedral Catholic. He is a contributing writer for Black Players for Change. He was published in ESPN last week. He joins us each and every Friday, and a huge thanks to him in giving us some MLS coverage. Does such a great job, and I learn so much every time Drake is on with us. So big appreciation to Drake. We got a couple of minutes left, Frank, if we want to dive into this series against the Twins. I think, you know, today's show was a lot of football. It was a lot of, you know, some soccer stuff. We mentioned some Padres conversations, you know, but going into this weekend, you're 2 games behind LA. You have 6 games against teams that are not very good and way below 500 in Minnesota and Baltimore, with 3 of them being at home. You have to start getting on this big stretch right now for the final 28 games of the season. And it starts tonight. I mean, we mentioned it before, like it was part of our Crucial 42. This first game was going to be part of that Crucial 42. And right now, it sounds like the entire weekend series has gotten even more important now that you're 2 games behind LA.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as far as how important this series is, that all changed because of what you did in Seattle. Taking only 1 of 3 games in Seattle has made this series so much more important. We had this first game on the Crucial 42 because of, you just had the couple big important series, then you had the travel from Seattle to Minnesota. So how do you rebound off of that travel? But this whole series now has become important if you want to stay in touch for the National League Western Division. Now you're 2 games behind the Dodgers after they swept Cincinnati. They're playing Arizona, who just split against Milwaukee. So, I mean, the Twins are one of those trap teams that if you do overlook them, they will bite you, but you are expected to beat them.
I think the difference is this year is, in so many years past, the Padres have actually done worse against bad teams than they did against good teams. And now this year, they're taking care of business against bad teams. They need to continue that for the next 6 days. And that continues past that when they got the Rockies 7 more times in the month of September.
Yeah, you've got a couple of very winnable series coming up here. You have Minnesota, winnable series, Baltimore, who currently sits last in the East, in the American League East, and then you're going to Colorado. So you have 9 very winnable games coming up here, not to mention the Savannah Bananas are going to try to sprinkle a little bit of fairy dust while you're up in Colorado to try to help for the rest of the season.
Padres need to take care of business tonight. It sounds like they should be able to, based on the roster that Minnesota has. Big thanks to Frank Marchese. Big thanks to our 2 guests today, Drake Hills and Cory Provus, the play-by-play man for the Minnesota Twins. I'm Braden Surprenant signing off, getting ready to coach some high school football up here in San Jose. Coming up next, Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matt Scraby for Gwynn and Chris. Mason Miller joins the show at 2:40. We'll talk to you guys on Tuesday.
Padres.